Uh, start streaming in 3, 2, 1. And we're live for the RWBY and Beyond podcast special 2,000 subscriber spectacular. I am your host, the Dovahkiin Mediocrity 4.
I'm on break at my machine shop, so I gotta leave. Y'all have fun. Hope I don't lose an arm.
See, high powered.
Yeah. High Power can't actually be here because he has to go back to work.
Yep.
Yeah, he works nights now, but he made a small cameo. I am here for the first time. Well, it's good to be back, but I am still burnt out as fuck on the show, and I'm not gonna lie. Watching through all your Honest Looks media only made me more angry at this show. I am dude. What the heck?
And media, I don't feel so good. I am Robert.
God, you know how hard it's going to be not to spoil that
Robert,
scene
Robert,
in my upcoming video.
Good for you.
For those of you who
Little
are
dated,
for those of you who aren't on my Twitter, I have revealed my next video. It will be a really long I'm thinking it's gonna end up being like a 20-minute long video talking about the Spider-Man movies. That's gonna be coming out in the next week or so.
All three of them, all three of the series, basically.
Yeah,
2000, all three series.
Yeah.
Now I gotta ask you,
6 movies. Wow.
Can you at least spoil the order that you rank the three in so far? Or is that not allowed?
Okay, so ranking Spider-Man standalone movies, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is at the very bottom. I have made that clear so many times on Facebook and Twitter. It is one of the worst superhero movies I have ever watched. It is worse than Batman v Superman.
Made that clear.
It's worse than anything the DCEU has done.
Wow.
Right above that, I would have the first Amazing Spider-Man movie from 2012. I don't like it. I think it's creatively bankrupt. I think it's entertaining in a lot of spots. It's certainly way better than its sequel, but it's still like just a hollow copy of the first Sam Raimi movie. And then above that, I would have Spider-Man 3, which was not a bad movie. It was just a downgrade from the previous two. And then I would have the first Spider-Man movie. And then I would have Spider-Man Homecoming, which is...
Okay.
You know, the first Spider-Man movie and Spider-Man Homecoming are kind of neck and neck for me. And then I would have Spider-Man 2 at the top. It's still the best standalone Spider-Man movie. And I would say Civil War just as good. Infinity War probably better. That's just how much I do briefly touch on those. But I just think that Infinity War's a masterpiece, quite frankly. But anyway, so
I am so glad to hear you say that because I fucking adored Infinity War. There was things that were wrong with it, but for what it is, oh my god, it is so good.
Agreed.
I really love it.
So one of the things that we're doing is I'm going to select certain comments from my video, from my previous video, the honest look at the White Fang, because I did say that, like, hey, leave your questions in the comments below, and we'll get to them on the podcast. And then hardly anyone actually
post them so we can see.
Anyone I could probably just pull up my display capture.
Okay.
You'd have to watch the stream though. But the thing, especially with this first one, I want to actually read it out. This was the first comment. It technically wasn't the first. There was one that went up like seconds before this, but the first comment was just saying finally. So that was a lot easier to write than this. So this is from the Dark Lord X on YouTube. He said, "Since I'm first, I'd like to tell y'all a story. A couple of years ago, one night, I was about to propose to my girlfriend when my roommate Joseph barged into the room. Out of nowhere, tripped and fell over, breaking a glass table with his face. Totally ruined the mood. Now, I didn't know Joseph that well. Don't even remember where he came from. But let's just say I put my plans on hold to help him through his injuries. Joseph had gotten a big glass shard in his eye, making him completely blind in that eye. He was
Ugh.
walking around with one of those cotton pads on his eye for a couple months. Then suddenly he disappeared along with my girlfriend. Apparently they'd bonded during the time after his injuries and eloped together, left me behind without much of it as a note. I tried to track them down but never could. In conclusion, if it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd have been married a long time ago. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
I knew that had to be fake after a couple seconds, but I didn't know that's where it was gonna go.
My response was like, that isn't a story, it's a meme. I'll allow it.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I completely-
Oh man.
See,
That was pretty great.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh,
The thing is, I didn't get a whole lot of questions on the YouTube comment because
Alright.
apparently no one watches past the credits like they should. Um. So
I do.
I've
but
got-
that's 'cause
I've
I
got-
watch it on
yeah.
the
Well,
playlist.
look,
I've gotten like
Uh,
500 comments and we'll be reading like maybe 10 or 15 of them.
Media, is it just me or your videos have blown up a lot lately? I didn't notice
Oh, yeah.
this, and I'm really happy for you. You
Um,
fucking deserve it. But there's a lot. It's because you're getting more subs. Obviously, your subs are getting up a lot more than before. But when I went back through the videos, I noticed that the views had gone up dramatically on quite a few of them compared to when I originally watched them,
yeah.
which is cool. I just was wondering. I was interested.
That just really means that I'm that my audience continues to grow and expand. And it means that I'm not losing people.
Yeah.
Which is really impressive considering the inconsistent quality of my work.
Aw.
But
All you,
I
literally all you
think
need is,
the
is all,
biggest
literally all you need
explosion
is
actually
a
came
better
about.
sound. You literally
Yeah.
just need a stronger sound system, and that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's really
I
the
think
only thing.
I think the biggest explosion was after the honest look at fight scenes. I don't think my
Yeah.
channel had that exponential of an explosion since then. Because that's what I went from like 300 subscribers to 1,500 subscribers in the course of a week after that video.
Wow.
And it's been steadily growing from there, but that was like it was overnight. That was when they were happening so fast that YouTube was like, "Hey, your channel's growing too fast. We can't email you about every single notification, so we're only going to do like a notification every week now." Like that's when I
When did you do that video?
that was actually about a year ago, I think.
What video was that again? Or...
The honest look at fight scenes.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah.
That is one of your most viewed, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was the one that got like posted on Reddit and stuff without me knowing it, and then someone freaking posted the
coffee
Reddit.
one is
Then someone posted
still
the
the
Reddit
most.
link to Ruby Republic, and I'm like, oh, hello.
Nice.
I think because I noticed like the last podcasts that we did have been a lot more viewed than before as well.
Yeah.
Although I think
Yeah,
we
and
were
I think that
already-
was with Batman.
not to pat ourselves on the back, but we were already, I think, the biggest RWBY podcast.
Yeah,
which is-
we have been pretty much since
We-
we have been since Volume 4,
Yeah.
back when we were only
that's
getting
why,
a couple
honestly,
hundred views. Like that's not saying much.
Well, now we're getting over it. The last few have gotten at least 1,000 every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, over 1,000. Yep.
Yeah, and
It's another reason I'm going to keep watching RWBY, even if I hate it with a burning passion, because I'm not going to stop doing the podcast. with
yeah,
you
I feel
guys.
like I'm in too deep. There's no way I can afford to.
I'm definitely
stop
trying to
talking
keep
about
up
it.
above in my head instead of going under.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did you guys not get that? Seriously?
So,
I'm a little disappointed that you guys didn't get that. That's a Sum 41 reference. Just go listen to Sum 41's In Too Deep. It's like a 2000 pop punk song.
I know some 41. I was never that big of a fan of them. I like Fat Lip, but that's the only
That's from the
song of
same
them
album.
from them that yeah, that's the only song of them that
Yeah.
I've listened to like multiple times.
Gotcha. Okay, I used
Yeah.
my guitar player that I played in music with for about. I still hang out with him all the time, and we played.
Yeah.
we were both big Sum 41 fans in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, I'm
enough of me
gonna
rambling.
catch up with the stream. We had some people on here like an hour ago that were arguing over who should have been first. Grats on 2K. Ah, crap. It just refreshed and now I'm like far down. So we just gonna be ripping into RWBY the stream. That was Pappy the Harpy that asked that. We're going to just see where the conversation goes.
I'm gonna go read the. I pull the stream up so I can read the comments.
Yeah. Devin Holmes asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the worst RWBY character of them all? Blake, Oscar?"
Oh, we've discussed this. It's either Osctard or Blake. I think is.
Yeah, we had an
pretty...
entire character ranking podcast, but that was
I
done
forgot who I ranked
pre-Volume
this last.
5. That was pre-Volume 5.
Did I already have Oscar as the worst?
Oh man, I'm trying to remember. I updated my sheet on like my least favorite characters. I'm pretty sure Blake really dropped down, but I think Oscar's like still my least favorite. But, yeah.
Can I please just reiterate the fact that I called Oscar being garbage, and I never wavered from that, and he's been even worse than I thought he was gonna be.
I remember in the the first podcast, you were at least interested into seeing like where they go with him.
But
Yeah,
I did say
after
my initial
at the end of
reaction.
Volume 4, you said, yeah, he's probably not going to be that great.
No, I said he's terrible and I hated him. I'm pretty sure I said I hated him already.
Well, that was before. That was back when he had only had like one line.
My very initial reaction, though, was, and I did say this on the podcast, was when I was watching with my brother. I think I said this on the podcast, but I know I told you guys this. When I watched with my brother, the first thing we both said was, "Oh fuck, they're adding a new character. This is not going to. I hate every time shows add new characters like this. It's going to be terrible." And it's exactly what happened. Oh, worst character to suffer in Volume 5? That's a great question from G-Man Q. That's a really good question.
I'm a little high. I'm a little higher up on the chat room.
I just really. Okay,
I'm at Devin Holmes. I'm at Devin Holmes saying no spoiler questions. Or my favorite, it's a cartoon. Which, for those of you who don't know, I don't think you heard the story, dude. But that was actually the Floof artist at RTX asking a really just legitimate, easy question, and then Barbara was like, "Dude, it's a cartoon."
That was him.
Yes, that was Floof artist.
I remember that. Oh man, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the question of like?
That was him asking. That was him asking. How did Jean get Pyrrha's outfit from Beacon?
Okay, I'm gonna say this.
Artist, what's his name on Facebook? If you don't.
Max Guy Lampy.
Okay, so I disagree with him on a lot of things. I remember arguing with him a lot, and I think he was the guy who was overly obsessed. Okay, I don't actually. He was very, very keen on being upset about Yang getting shafted in Volume 4. Is that correct?
That was another guy.
He probably was, but I don't remember Floof really. Floof is the one who he really the only argument I had with him was when I defended Volume 4's fight scenes.
Okay, yeah.
Which actually, and we actually compromised and we're like, yeah, they are actually well written, but yeah, they are poorly animated. That's his thing. He's an animator. He's an animator. Like he's going to school to be an animator. So he's
okay.
And I'm a writer, so I care more about the writing. I don't care about the choreography.
I think all three of us care more about the writing, don't we? I think all three of us are in that.
Yeah.
So we're all into writing.
But for those of you who haven't seen it, watch the Floof Artist's new video, the RWBY is Broken, I think it's like number 4. It's the entire Haven fight scene, and it's an hour long, and he does the Rick McCallum. It's so dense. Every single frame has so much going on, like 12 times in that video. He was trying to kill me with that. Because I die a little bit inside every time I see that Rick McCallum quote.
Which video is it? Because I'll watch. So actually, my point that I was going to say was I actually wanted to apologize to Max slash Floof Artist because I used to disagree with him a lot more, and he's been in a lot of our arguments. I think from the past, he's kind of been proven correct. So I actually wanted to give him some credit. That was my point with that.
A little bit.
Not to. Yeah, I still don't agree with him on everything, but I think there were some things that we disagree with that he's now been proven much more correct now. So I wanted to actually give him some props, not to degrade him.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to give him some props.
I don't know. I will say this, like, in terms of how Jean got Pierre's armor, that is one of those things that I really don't care about. I'm okay with them, like, hand waving it. The problem is they hand wave so many of these little things that they all pile up. Like, if they didn't let all of these little things slide, then yeah, this one little thing of how did Jean get Pierre's armor wouldn't be that big a deal. But they have all these little things that are and also a lot of things that are a big deal. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like
and the strengths aren't strong enough to distract from that.
Exactly.
Like we talked about this when we talked about Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plot holes and stuff in the original Star Wars, but the story and characters are so unbelievably strong in that movie that you don't even notice them.
Yeah.
You don't even notice them.
Don't forget Harrison Ford.
And same thing with any good movie. Same thing with The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight actually has plenty of plot holes in it, but the story and characters are so strong, and it does such a good job covering those up.
Yeah.
With just its self-evident, like Chris Nolan's self-evident talent that you don't even notice unless you're like really just looking for them. And if you're looking for the flaw, and if you're actively looking for the flaws, like, oh, I'm gonna tear this thing apart from the inside, then
you can tear
you're
anything apart, even
then
some
you're
of the
missing
best.
the point.
Yeah, some of the best all of the best movies and TV shows, you can tear things apart in that.
Yeah, that's why I said this on one of the podcasts before, where I was like, if I don't notice something, which, like, when I'm making a RWBY review, I'm watching that episode 3 or 4 times. If I don't notice something in that amount of time, then I don't care.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
Yeah,
unless
in fairness to Floof, I would say that that wasn't something I specifically cared about, but I can definitely understand why people would care about that.
Well, and the thing is, a lot of the things that Floof Artist points out are things that are such easy fixes that should not be problems. Like if they were to animate it right, like the Volume 4 finale. Like the Volume 4 finale, they used 3 different set pieces. Like the 3 animators on that fight each had a different set piece that had a different building layout. Like that takes more time than just doing it right.
Yeah.
Doing it like it takes more time and effort to make it look bad in that regard than if they were to just make it look good.
And the other thing is too, I'm actually taking his side on this, is because even though that's not something I specifically care about, if I was the writer of a show or a book or whatever, if somebody asked me that question and it's something I don't really know the answer to, then I would say something more along. First of all, Barbara shouldn't be fucking answering that question. That's another problem that Rooster Teeth
and saying it's a cartoon is not a good answer.
Especially with how condescending it was.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's like, it's the condescending tone that she answered it in. And also the problem is, she's not a goddamn writer. That's not her question to answer. Like, that's the problem. If I was a writer and I had an actor or somebody answering my question like that, I would be pissed. I would say, no, fuck you. That's not the right answer. Unless it's like, it's not even about Yang, an actor about Yang. That's kind of fair. Although, like in Harry Potter, like when the Ginny actor tried to comment on Ginny, no, fuck you, because movie Ginny is bullshit. Real Ginny is hot, confident, hilarious, and a badass. Which you are none of those things, actor Ginny. Whoever, I don't even remember your fucking name. But
I know she was in Benjamin Button. That's the only other thing I know her from.
That's a little bit more of a fair question. But either way, that's not an actor's question to answer because it's not even related to her character. So she shouldn't be fucking. She did that just to be a douche. And the other thing is, like, if I was to answer that question, I would say something more along the lines of, if I didn't know, I would just straight up tell you, I don't know, and I didn't put any thought into that. I'm sorry.
Hold on, the stream cut out.
You okay?
I think so.
Okay.
Scroll down the chat. Let us know down in the chat if we're coming in clear. I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to ask another.
All right. Pappy the Harpy said we're back. So
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. That was my internet cutting out for a second. It was
Alright, so
literally
where
just
are we?
just a second.
Okay.
Where were we on the questions now? Because I do want to answer that question that I answered that I wanted to touch
Yeah.
on before.
So Matt
'Cause that's a good question.
Matt Cawthon said, why is it that the relics and maidens were not used as basically WMDs in the war against the Grimm? A question that has haunted me.
Yeah. We don't. I don't
We
know.
can't answer
Ask
that
Miles,
because the writers don't
ask
know
Miles
that.
and
They have
Carrie.
no idea. They didn't.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe it's just that Ozpin. I don't know. Like, this is if I was writing. Like, maybe Ozpin didn't have access to them, and this is operating on the theory that Ozpin's like a secondary villain and stuff like that. But maybe what it is that he didn't have access to them until like after the Great War, and after that he was more concerned with like just keeping Salem at bay, and wanted to be needed and stuff like that by other people, and so he didn't use the relics and the maidens and stuff like that for all those years because he wanted to basically hold on to power, and also he was afraid that if he killed Salem, he would then, end up dead. He would then die himself, and he didn't want that, so he basically just decided to use them as like a deterrent type of thing. But I don't know. It's one of those things
My
that was
yeah,
not very well thought out.
my answer would just be, it again goes to my point that I've said a lot, and I know that I think media slightly disagrees with this, is that is that much going on. There's too much magic crap in the show, and I think that's a good question in a way because it asks. It's kind of, to me, that question points
Because
out all the
clearly Miles
issues.
and Carrie have not asked themselves that question.
Yes, because they haven't asked themselves that question, and all they keep adding more lore instead of flushing out the lore that they already had, which is why I still maintain that the maiden should never have existed, ever. I still regret. That's one of the to me, it's still one of the biggest problems with the show, is it should have just been the Grimm and whatever the bad guys are controlling the Grimm, and the White Fang, and maybe the Silver Eyes. That's it. No, Ozpin is not some fuck. Because that would also keep Ozpin from coming back too, which would be great. Because that fucking kills two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Because they're never gonna figure out how to answer a question like that, and if they do, it's gonna be fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So, all right, what's next?
The next question, Pappy the Harpy said, was the dust robbery ever actually relevant to their plans? I think yes and no. I think it was poorly delivered. I think it's as relevant as the web shooters are in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Yeah, they're there and they technically play an important part, but it has absolutely no weight and it doesn't actually affect anything in the story because nobody runs out of ammo. Nobody ever comments on the dust prices being too high to keep your weapon stocked. Nobody worries. Nobody like brings up the question of like, oh, hey, these terrorists are very well armed. This must be from all the dust shops they've been robbing. Like, yeah, it's there and it's kind of speculated that way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually have any narrative weight because it doesn't affect the heroes at all.
Yeah, and this is something that I think, like, or I don't know, maybe I want to save this when we talk about like your honest look on the villains, but Cinder's plan could have actually been like on paper, actually does work and actually could have been pretty ingenious if they had like first of all put some actual thought into it, and if they had actually if they had actually bothered to actually explain it, actually think in terms of cause and effect, because there are causes and there are like effects that would happen, and if they had also not treated anything like an accident. Because like it actually, I don't know, to me, her plan actually makes a lot of sense in that she steals the dust to, first of all, weaken Vale's infrastructure, weaken their Huntsman. Again, yeah, Huntsman should have run out of ammo. People, like, the characters should have run out of dust and had to, resort to just, basic, melee attacks and stuff like that during the breach. That would have, really worked out. And also, like, it could have lowered people's faith in Ozpin, and then, like, that forces Ironwood into action and forces him to bring in his army, which Salem needs. Like, they could have made it work, but they didn't, and I don't know. I have
I agree.
I have more thoughts on that I could go into if you want me to, or if you want me to wait. Or
let's see where this goes. I really want to just catch up with the chat because we're still pretty far behind.
Yeah.
Kitty Kirishima said, "Why the motherfucking heck does this already have a dislike?" Because Trump.
People don't like us.
Let's just blame Trump like everyone else does.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
I miss that meme.
That shit.
I miss that meme.
I love the thanks, Obama. And all right, anyway.
Pappy the Harpy said, "Who in God's name watches a RWBY stream at 3 a.m.?" This is someone who actually said it was 3 a.m. earlier when they were like one of the first people to comment in the chat. So I guess you.
I want to think that I like to think that this person is a SpongeBob connoisseur and he's making a Patrick Star reference. So, oh boy, 3 a.m. That's my answer to that question.
Time for a RWBY podcast.
Yeah.
Apparently,
imagine if somebody's like that. If somebody actually gets up at 3 a.m. and goes like, "Oh boy, 3 a.m. Mediocrity 4 stream," I would be so flattered, and you should be too, Media.
I mean, apparently someone did think that, so.
Okay. The Survivor asked, "What was the most annoying thing RWBY did that made you want to yell?" He said won't yell, but I think he meant want to yell. That RWBY, the show, RWBY.
Okay.
God, what broke me was
what? Jean tripping over himself. That was like, I want so bad to like Jean. That's the moment where I was all like, I can't do it. I can't defend what they've done to him. I can't. That was the
when he goes to attack Cinder
and trips over himself. Yeah,
and he trips over himself still
because he tries stabbing her instead of actually like swinging his sword.
Yeah.
So my super biased answer to this is the fact that they reduced Renora to pointless exposition spewing side characters after the amazing work they did with them in Volume 4, and I still maintain I will
in Volume 5.
Yeah, and the fact that they don't and they haven't gotten together after Volume 4, like, even if you don't care about Renora, you still have to question what the fuck they were thinking.
Yeah,
doesn't make because I maintain that that's still one of the best things they did in Volume 4 was that relationship.
Yeah,
it's done
I'll agree.
So well. Even if you don't care about Renora, you have to admit that Kurayuri is one of the best episodes of the show, and that they really strengthened those two characters and did an amazing job actually writing a compelling relationship in a fucking anime show, which, let's be honest, is better than what most anime shows did. And then all of a sudden they just decided to say, "Fuck it, we don't care anymore."
Yeah.
What? That was one of the best things of the volume. So yeah, don't understand that at all. So
Derek Bell asked, "Is it?" I guess he asked this when I was talking about the Spider-Man movies. Is it Amazing Spider-Man 2 worse than Fan 4 Stick? Yes, but not by much.
I still haven't seen it.
The thing, Amazing Spider-Man 2, like Fan 4 Stick, did not piss me off the way Amazing Spider-Man 2 did. Amazing Spider-Man 2 insulted me as a Spider-Man fan, whereas Fan 4 Stick, it was just another bad Fantastic Four movie. There's been 4 Fantastic Four movies, and they get worse each time.
So you didn't expect any better, so it didn't really crush your expectations. That's fair.
No, especially since Amazing Spider-Man 2, it had all the flaws of the Amazing Spider-Man, plus all the flaws in Spider-Man 3, plus all the flaws with, the Dark Universe and the DCEU, and trying to and trying to like chase Marvel's shadow without getting the characters right first.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Scrolling
What's
down.
next? Also, the other worst thing that the show pissed me off is just creating Oscar. That still is one of the dumbest things they did. I called that. And I want him to end up getting good. One of the worst scenes in the entire show is the RWBY Oscar talk. That's still one of the worst scenes they've ever done, and that's after I already hated him. Like, it's just garbage.
Yeah.
And a lot of his problem is not himself. It's Ozpin. It's Ozpin. So that's
It's
Ozpin's
both.
terrible.
It's
So-
both of them.
This is kind of another kind of version of a question that was asked earlier. Pappy the Harpy asked, "Do you think Dust should have played a bigger role?" Yes, I
Yes.
think
Yes,
they should have gotten a little more into it because Dust make the thing like the whole
And they
maiden
should have done more
powers
with,
are
like,
just
what its
have been done.
absence does. Yeah.
Again, this goes back to what I've said before about how the maiden should never have existed and the magic stuff should not exist, because then we could focus on the Grimm and Dust, and that would be, I think, a lot more interesting. I always tend to believe that it's better to go deeply into a smaller universe and a smaller lore than it is to like just have too much shit. Basically, I think that's a generally good. I'm not saying completely explain the magic.
That's why Deus Ex is one of the greatest video game series ever. It's because
that's why I don't think
it's kind of open world, but it's a lot smaller than your usual open world, and it is so dense and so layered and deep.
Well,
I'm gonna use Harry Potter as an example.
Going to,
I would use Harry Potter as an example because they never actually explain how the magic works, and she does a good job of creating a world, but it's really mostly just in England.
I have my issues with Harry Potter's world building, but a lot of it has to do with like how closed off the wizard world is.
Magic, if you're going to explain the magic, you need to do a good job, and you need to like have those specific rules, because the problem
actually, how about this better example? Because to piggyback what you said, Robert, Avatar: The Last Airbender versus Legend of Korra. Avatar: The Last Airbender, they go deeply into what is actually a pretty damn small world, and they never actually explain how bending really works. They explain how each bending works, but they don't actually explain how bending is even possible. They don't really explain magic. That show is one of the greatest shows of all time. And then in Legend of Korra,
we don't need its origin story, but we should know like what the rules are to it.
And it's one villain, so they go deeply into one big storyline. Legend of Korra, it's a bunch of different villains. It's much more broad, and they explain the magic, and that series is fucking garbage. Perfect comparison right there. If I do say so.
Okay, so next question. Do you know the bandaged badass that is Joshua Graham? No, never heard of him.
No.
Nope.
Okay. Pappy the Harpy asked, "Is RWBY's only saving grace big-tittied waifus?" No. There's also small ones.
No.
There's also small-tittied waifus.
There's Weiss, flat as justice.
There we go. And like Weiss and Yang in general haven't been completely murdered and mauled yet.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that we have to say that, considering how shafted Yang really did get in Volume 4. But you're right. At the same time,
I really don't think she did. I still disagree.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, Weiss is still the best character in the show. I'm really worried that because they're going to Alice, they're going to completely destroy her. That's the thing I'm most worried about, even more than Renora at this point, because they've already destroyed Renora. So I'm really worried about what they're going to do to Weiss, because she's literally the only good character left in the show, honestly, at this point. She's the only one that hasn't been completely... Even she's kind of fucked up by causing Yang to not hate Blake, which is still... That's another one of the most infuriating things the show did, was not have Yang punch Blake in the face.
Yeah, so I listened to the director's commentary, and they implied that they will... that they are still going to like deal with that. So hopefully, I hope so.
I can't even listen to the commentaries. It's the first year I have it because I'm so mad at them. Because the Volume 4 commentary was so retarded, even though Volume 4 was actually good. the Volume 4 commentary was so garbage that it made me really mad. I forget if that was the thing where they first said that Oscar was becoming one of my favorite characters to write, and I was like, oh god, he's gonna get even worse. And what do you know? That actually happened. What a
You
surprise!
did say that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
volume.
Because I remember, and I called it. I was like, oh god, they said that they like writing Oscar. That means it's gonna be garbage. Sure enough, he's garbage.
Volume 5 commentary just pissed me off so much because there's a bunch of stuff that they said that like. So one thing they said was that, oh, this volume is about positivity and taking action. I'm all like, fucking when did
Taking
anyone
action,
take any
waiting in a
that
living
was-
room for the
that was
plot
the
to
thing
call
that
you is
that was the
taking
thing that
action now.
Robert
Yeah,
posted
so
on RWBY Republic, and then I actually commented and immediately regretted it because I remembered how fucking idiotic everybody is on RWBY Republic and how dumb most of the people are.
So I put out some polls on RWBY Republic and RWBY Amino where I was all like, what was, where I basically asked people like, what did, what was the intended themes? I underestimated the fandom's ability to see what they want to see, basically, and so a bunch of people were all, oh, it was about taking action. No, it fucking was not. It was not. And so, like, they wanted a volume about taking action, and they pretended that that's what it was about. Nobody took any action, okay? Blake's, like, I saw the comments that you got there, dude, and, like, Blake's did not, Blake's only action was to start going around collecting a petition, which did not affect anything. Like, nothing she did affected the story.
It was a stupid idea in the first.
The only character that kind of took action was Weiss when she decided to get herself out of her prison. That was the only thing. So, like,
No, I know the guy was completely wrong. I just kind of gave in because I don't care anymore, and I haven't really commented on Republic since, except for David Joshua McCall's really funny like joke posts that he posts
In his art.
Funny.
His
Yeah,
freaking autistic, freaking meme art.
His meme art is pretty enjoyable. I have to admit, it's one of the better. It's probably one of the best things left about Republic is that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I actually disagree, I disagree with David on a lot of things about RWBY, which is funny. But I agree with him on a lot of things elsewhere. It's really funny. Like in RWBY, I disagree with him on most things.
That's most people
else,
though.
I usually agree with him.
That's a good healthy interaction then.
Yeah. But I appreciate David because he actually makes effort into his posts, and when he disagrees with you, he at least makes a fucking intelligent, if not correct, argument. Even if I think it's incorrect, he at least makes an intelligent argument using evidence, even if I disagree with it. But he actually does something instead of just autistically screeching. So I very much respect him in that sense.
Panda Brady asked, so do semblances not affect physical body? I say that, but Nora does, but everyone else's has been glowy aura based. It's so nebulous, and it's every attempt to explain it
because of the shit that Ren said is like, what do we even know about what do we know about semblance anymore? Is the problem? That would be a great question.
It's whatever
Volume 5
needed to be. That is basically what Ren was telling us in not so many words. It's whatever the writers needed to be.
It's basically a Miles saying, I'm not good at continuity, so I'm just gonna let everybody know that I'm not good at continuity. Here you go. This is just my fallback.
G-Man Q asked, worst character to suffer in Volume 5.
That's the one I wanted. That's
the character that suffered the most. Oh boy.
I'd say Raven. Raven had actual potential and went from one of the most interesting aspects of the show, the aspect that got me into the show, to being this thing that I dread watching.
So
in the span of like 5 episodes.
I think I know how they screwed that up because again I listened to the director's commentary. This is what I think they screwed up there. Is that they intentionally wrote Raven to be a hypocrite. And here's the thing. That can work. Black Panther, Killmonger proved that you can write a hypocritical character and still make that character work. Like Killmonger is basically his whole goal is he wants to be what he hates most in the world, but he has like a legitimate beef with everything. He has legitimate
because they characterize Killmonger as a freaking teenager throwing a tantrum, really.
Yeah, that's actually
Yeah,
one of the better
because-
parts of that movie, I actually think, personally.
Yeah,
So Killmonger has like legit does
I
actually have
I don't
some
agree with him being like the most
understandable beef.
sympathetic villain the MCU has had
Yeah,
for
no,
for those
no.
same
No, he is
reasons.
not the. Yeah, no, he is not.
God damn it! Fucking Thanos was more sympathetic than Killmonger, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. So yeah, no, like Killmonger was not sympathetic. I personally think he's overrated, but like he resonated with people because he had understandable like reasons for being angry, and he brought about like real change in Black Panther and stuff like that. Raven did not do any of that. Okay, Raven's like whole beef with Ozpin, her entire anger with him was he gave her the ability to turn into a bird at will,
oh
and they
god, yeah, I
failed to
know.
explain,
That's so
and that
infuriating.
doesn't make sense. And like they give us no reason to believe that she has any actual reason to hate Ozpin. If they had actually made it like given her a legitimate reason to dislike Ozpin, and like actually said, yeah, actually she is right in disliking him for those reasons, then it would have made more sense. But they didn't, and so she just was terrible. Like that's the problem. There is they didn't realize that you can have a hypocrite who kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm.
But they were
All
like,
right,
nope, she's a hypocrite and therefore makes absolutely no sense.
Is that your answer too, then, Robert? Is Raven?
I think my answer is actually RWBY.
Really? How so? Okay, that's what I'm interested to hear.
So, I guess part of it is just that I don't know. When I listen to media's honest look at RWBY, I think he was pretty much right. Like she had a good motivation. She had good objectives, and like she had a reason, and like she had challenges and flaws even up until volume 4. Her recklessness, her inability to follow orders and stuff like that, those were her
being
flaws.
A bad leader, just being a bad leader in general.
Yeah, not being a great leader and stuff like that. Volume 5 nuked all of those and made her that really bland, boring character that people have been saying she was. And so, yeah. I don't know. So RWBY or maybe Jean, like I said, that moment where he trips over himself was just the moment where it's like, can't like him anymore. I can't justify anything they've done with him anymore. So maybe Jean. I don't know.
Yeah, those are
everyone
both,
suffered.
They were both great answers. My other answers would be Ren and Nora. Yep. Nora suffered massively because they did the only thing they could do to really fuck them up. There's 2 things they could have done to fuck them up. Have them get together and then break up, which is like the sitcom bullshit thing, which thank God they didn't do that. That's actually the very worst thing they could have done. What they did is slightly less bad because they can technically salvage it. But they did the second worst thing, which is not build off of the incredible momentum they had and reduce them to not even the same characters they were before, as Media pointed out in his video. Also, RWBY's a great answer because the Volume 5 is so bad, it completely invalidates Media's honest look at RWBY video. That's how bad
it invalidates a lot of them, actually.
Yeah. Which is great because you can remake the Media and you get more views. And my other answer would be in the sense of because just to not choose the same things you guys did, because I think that Raven and RWBY are probably technically the 2 biggest. I would say Adam.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Adam's a really close one. I think Adam's actually on par with Raven personally.
Here is something I realized. Yeah. Here's something I've realized.
But you could argue that he'd been kind of getting nerfed since Volume 4. That's kind of not just Volume 5's fault. And then the other one I would say would be Crow got nerfed pretty bad. He became the fucking retard in Volume 5 as well. Not as much, though.
He just kind of robs the show, like, robs Team RWBY of their... He and Oscar both kind of rob RWBY of her main character status.
Yeah, like like in terms of changing our character ranking list, Crow comes way down after Volume 5 for me.
Yeah.
Weiss's number 1 place just gets even more solidified because she actually was one of the few not terrible parts of the volume.
Yeah.
Still.
And here's something I realized on the subject of Adam is that Sienna Khan literally existed for no purpose other than to make us hate Adam even more. Like up until Volume 4, we all thought Adam was the big leader of the White Fang. We kind of figured that maybe he it was him or something like that. Like that was what we all assumed, and they could have just let us keep assuming that and could have keep doing it. But no, they had to make us hate him even more than they already had for no good reason, completely
Yeah.
irrational reasons. And so they introduced this character, put all this work into her that ultimately led up to nothing.
Yeah. So next question, Abel Zirahan, I probably butchered that, asked, "What are your thoughts on the rumors that RWBY will be on just the Rooster Teeth website?" I believe it. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um, it the thing is, when Miles actually explained why all their shows aren't going to YouTube, I totally buy it, and I totally respect him for standing up to YouTube like that. Um,
Yeah,
like I respect Rooster Teeth.
YouTube's.
I respect Rooster Teeth's decision on that matter.
I
Um,
do too. I
I'd
don't blame
respect
them
it
at
a
all.
lot more if their website wasn't kind of if it was a little
Yeah,
better. Um,
Was more accessible, yeah.
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 But
Their new. I don't like their new site. I've only been there once or twice. Maybe they've updated it.
I've never liked
I
any of
do
their
plan on
website.
catching up with Ruby Chibi and Camp sometime, and then probably this weekend since I'm
yeah,
going to be out of town and away from my
Oh god, that's
computer.
right.
And
I've been so disheartened by RWBY Volume 5. I've not watched a single episode of this season of Chibi, and I have not watched Camp
I
Camp yet.
watched the first
I
block
haven't
before
seen
they
one
went
in
on
a while.
hiatus because
Oh,
they
that's fine.
they went on like a 2 month hiatus so that the last episode will come out right before Volume 6 starts.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I totally respect their decision if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah, for
Um,
yeah,
me,
it makes sense.
it makes sense to me. There's a show that I love on YouTube that was on YouTube called Roadkill, which is a car show. And if anybody watches that, it's actually one of the most popular car shows on YouTube, if not the most. And they moved it. It's a Motor Trend show, and they moved it to their channel exclusively. And at first, I was kind of upset and annoyed, and then I decided, you know what, this show is so good, and I understand with all the YouTube bullshit going on, so I actually just did give them my money and I just watched
Yeah,
that. Because they give you a lot of other stuff on their website besides that. So you know what? It's worth it to me. I do really want to support the guys that make that show because they do put a lot of effort and care into it.
yeah.
And it's funny. It's really good. It's entertaining. And so it's worth it to me. As much as I dislike RWBY, I do at least respect that Rooster Teeth does put effort into their stuff. Maybe not in the right ways. They don't put enough effort into the writing aspect of stuff, but they are genuinely trying, and I, on principle, support their decision.
I support
In
their
that
decision
sense.
because YouTube has been making Google and Google, but specifically YouTube because they own YouTube, has been making a lot of business decisions that nobody likes. I don't know how
Yeah,
they're getting away with
I,
so
I,
much like of
I
that.
think it's great to see people who are on the left, which like people like Rooster Teeth, as well as people on the right, like Sargon and Steven Crowder.
But
Basically,
Sargon isn't on the right.
well, yeah, he's
He
you're
kind
right. You're
of
right. He
he's
kind of
moderate,
is.
but
He's moderate, but
or left-leaning moderate.
left-leaning moderate. Yeah. Okay, so
he's left leaning in that he is fine with welfare states. Like that's really all he has
that's
going for
really
him that
yeah,
makes
yeah,
him left.
exactly. And like people that are kind of left-leaning middle, like I don't know what Philip DeFranco is, but basically everybody agrees that YouTube's being assholes right now, and it's really nice right now to have basically everybody agreeing on something. That's
Yeah.
really
There
nice.
goes our
And
monetization.
whenever the right and the left agree on something, it's kind of weird.
But it's nice. I like it when that happens, to be honest.
Me too.
They should be trying harder to compromise, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a right-leaning moderate, and I'm happy to agree with far leftists on anything. I would prefer to agree with people.
I'm voting
I'm a
for
libertarian.
I'm voting for Austin Peterson for Senate in the primaries coming up. I really just do not like Josh Hawley. And I'm kind of sick of Claire McCaskill playing follow the leader with the DNC. I used to actually really like Claire McCaskill, but she's kind of done she's backed the wrong horse too many times. It's time for her to go. So
Anyway.
Derek Bell asked, would the show be worse if they got rid of all of the characters, A, Blake, B, Miles, or C, Jean, or D, Cinder and Raven's bad voice acting? They'd have
Like,
to replace them with something. Like Oscar slash
Yeah,
Ozpin,
those
I
are kind
feel
of
like
irreplaceable.
could be taken out and you wouldn't lose much. The other ones, I mean, Cinder and Raven, you can just change their voice actors or write them out of the show too, so it wouldn't change much on that
Yeah,
front
I
either.
would remove
But
it. Yeah, I would
Blake,
change
as
out
much as
Cinder
I
and
hate
Raven.
Blake, she is an integral part of the show. She is
Yeah.
kind of a titular
I
character.
know.
Like, I would rather her just
Kind of. No,
stop
she's
being a
definitely.
bad character.
They
Yeah.
would lose a
Yeah.
chunk of the fandom if Blake just disappeared.
Yeah.
That's like a 20-30% hit to the show.
Matt Cawthon.
They'd make the other remaining 70% really happy though. Can I just call attention to two comments really quick?
Yes.
The Z Killer said the only good character is Weiss. That is literally correct right now. There's nothing that's actually right.
And
so
the
good
best
point.
combo is whatever Weiss and Yang are talking together, because that's
Yep.
actually, they play off each other surprisingly well.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Yang is actually one of the least crappy characters now, even though she was one of my least favorite in the beginning. And then Pappy the Harpy said, Oscar is Ruby's Scrappy Doo. Oh my god, hallelujah. That is one of the best fucking...
Yeah.
That is really accurate.
Yeah.
I'd
So
I'd
accurate.
applaud, but I can't applaud and hold down push to talk at the same time. Without like leaning over.
But I bow
I'm
to
just
that.
holding an iPod, so yes. Yeah.
That's very correct, though. Good point, Pappy.
Matt
Pappy,
Cawthon
how-
asked,
Talking
which
to my truck.
Matt Cawthon asked, which do you think is more annoying? The fandom when two female characters look at each other for forcing them 10 seconds, or the fandom basically forcing the writers to gut the villains? Gutting the villains.
Gutting the villains is worse, because the other thing is something that happens in fandom.
I don't like ship baiting, but yeah, gutting the...
The other thing happens naturally. When two characters interact, there's going to be shippers. Like, that's just human nature.
Yeah, that's every...
I'm actually one of those people that I'm one of those people that genuinely defends shippers in most situations, because I'm one of those.
I draw the line at when they start
romance-
writing hate mail to the writers for not making their ships canon. Like when when freaking Matt Gatiss got
Tokyo
freaking...
Ghoul?
I'm thinking Sherlock. Freaking Mark Gatiss,
I
Matt
have to
Gatiss
stop
or
y'all
Mark
for a
Gatiss or
second.
whoever it was, and Stephen Moffat got freaking death threats and stuff for not making Sherlock X Watson canon.
The
Or like
overgeneralization
when,
of shippers is something I disagree with, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because predicting
Also,
romance is the
Supernatural
same thing as speculating on anything else.
Oh, you want to know what happens when shipping goes too far? So this happened before season 6 of Voltron came out.
Voltron?
They let like a bunch of like art students take a tour of like their studio, and a person got like a picture of like a storyboard that would have been like a major spoiler to the whole, like, for that whole season. And they were tweeting like the creators, it's like, hey, if you don't make my gay ship canon, then I'm gonna release this information.
Was
on the internet.
it like something that was like what, Allura and Lance getting together or something?
No, I think I don't know what like the actual image of it was though.
Huh.
But basically, like, they went public and they were like, I've got this image and I'm gonna like throw it out on the internet if you don't make my gay ship happen. And then that's shipping gone too far. I know someone in the chat probably knows of the specific circumstance. I heard this like I think a week ago, and it just came back to me.
I'm trying to think because I just saw Voltron season, and it was okay.
So I'm gonna blast through
Anyway.
some questions on my own.
Yeah.
Why would Ozpin give out maiden powers to strangers that could unlock relics that could destroy Remnant? Because he's an idiot. Yeah.
He's a fucking idiot. Yeah.
Would Vinyl 453 asked, would Ozpin being evil be predictable? Maybe, but it's really the only way they can salvage him.
Yeah,
it's like Red
Red
versus Blue season 15 predictable, where it's literally the only thing they can do without being stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not predictable because I don't think they meant to do it. They literally doing it as like an unconfirmed retcon.
Yeah. Devin Holmes asked, why didn't Ozpin prepare Ruby to be a silver-eyed warrior? Because he's an idiot.
Again.
Because
They don't know what they want to do with the silver eye powers, and they probably realize that it invalidates Cinder's character.
Yeah. All right, next.
I'm skimming for question marks. Favorite villain, if you have one. Are we talking Ruby villains? Because favorite Ruby villain, I would probably say Torchwick.
Torchwick. Yep, Torchwick.
Torchwick or Watts. I like Watts.
Yeah.
That mustache is magnificent.
Again, it's one of those things I want to like all of them, but yeah, Torchwick. Like, I really do want to like Team Witch. I remember when Volume 4 first started and we got all these new villains, I was excited. I was like, ooh, wow,
yeah.
these guys look really cool. And
I was on board.
And I really liked what we got of Tyrion, you know? I thought, yes, there wasn't much going on, but I was okay with that. Then Volume 5.
Yeah. Archon of Plague said, dumb question, when Cinder made the speech in Volume 3, why didn't everyone immediately suspect it was her doing, considering the timing? Because everyone in Remnant is an idiot.
Yep.
And any random person could be talking on the phone. Or have a voice changer.
Derek Bell asked in Volume 5, which one of Ruby's protagonist speeches sucks more? The one where she's talking to Oscar.
I would say the one where she's talking to Raven.
Yeah. Kitty Kirishima asked, what was the most disappointing Volume 5 moment? When Adam got pounded into the dirt.
When Adam got hit by when Blake dove into Adam's sword and then hit him. That was definitely the worst.
Yeah, definitely.
Single moment.
Iframes.
Kathy Vasquez donated $2 and said, "Hi, it's Cardcaptor 17 from the Discord. Congrats on 2,000." Anytime someone donates, I read their comment because that's just what you do. Friendly Neighborhood Neocon. You win username of the day.
Nice.
This just in, Ben Shapiro has joined the cast. No. Will we see Neptune plus team going to Haven in Volume 6, Episode 1, since Volume 5, Episode 14 happens a few days before the start of school? Maybe.
Wait, sorry, what was the question again?
Will we see Neptune at the beginning of Volume 6?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if Neptune just reappears.
Yeah, I would definitely mind having him back, but...
Yeah, I didn't dislike Neptune, so, I mean...
Yeah.
I'm worried he's going to take away from Blake and Sun interacting, which was the only thing that made Blake tolerable.
Yeah. Why is Archana Plagueis asked, why is it when characters say everyone has a choice, do I feel the urge to facepalm? Do characters not know how to read between the lines? It's a cliche.
Yeah, it's a cliche.
But you're not wrong in wanting to facepalm.
It's like having a choice in a David Cage game. Or a Tales of whatever game. Or,
Telltales?
Yeah, Telltale games. That one.
Or I think we're thinking two different things. I'm thinking like Telltale's The Walking Dead. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, just like the studio in general.
Yeah, I agree there. Those games, I don't know. It feels like those games really, like your only choice is how many detours you take on the way to your end.
Yeah. Knockduck Days asked, how does a fanfiction execute a better theme than RWBY? You get me to write it because I'm actually...
I'm writing one too.
Could you imagine if us three worked on RWBY instead? I honestly believe if you threw us three into RWBY right now, we would make the show so much better. It's not even funny. And I
here too.
I feel the first thing y'all would do is just hire Celtic Phoenix and Fat Man.
Yeah.
I think we know each other well enough that we probably just stick to like us to us, just because we know not that we don't respect them, but like we have a good relationship with each other that would work best.
And we do, we have a better idea of like, I don't know what the show be.
And if we fucked up, we'd be smart. We'd be humble enough to hire our fucking professional as shit writer if it didn't work after one season. I know I would.
Derek Bell said, in your honest look at Ren and Nora, how come you don't want to know why Nora is a homeless child or why she got into that situation she was in during the Kuroyuri flashback in Volume 4?
Can I answer
For
this?
very much the same reason that I don't care about Bruce Wayne's first 5 years of life. Like, literally the same reason.
Okay, so my answer to
That's
this
a good
is that
answer.
it doesn't matter. I think it's very powerful that the idea is that her life began at that moment.
Yeah.
And it's also a don't explain the magic kind of thing. All we need to know is that she was nothing at that point and very likely would have been dead within a couple of years if it wasn't for Red. What more do you need to know? It doesn't matter. She honestly probably has blocked out everything before that in her memory because of trauma. That's my guess.
Yeah.
That is so powerful that all she can think of is like that moment and beyond. That is, so you kind of ruin that if you explain it before that. It's actually very specifically, it's not just that you don't care. To me, it's very important that you don't explain it before that. It ruins things if you explain before that, I think.
Okay, so
I'm on the fence on it. I could see it maybe working if I don't know. First of all, they would have to make it relevant, so with that it might not be, but it's like,
I mean, how are they going to when they've made Red and Nora irrelevant?
Boring thing where it's like nobody cares. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it.
Alan
I'm a hardcore Renora shipper. Renora is one of my favorite characters, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't care, and I actively don't want it.
We should ask the chat what their favorite podcast moments were.
Oh, and also, like, it's saying that us three would do an amazing job fixing RWBY. I think all three of us can write pretty well, but I don't necessarily think we would do that with every show. Not trying to, because I don't want to sound like overly cocky. I mean, I'm definitely overly confident a lot of times, but it's more just because RWBY is so bad at this point, not because we're like the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think Fat Man and Celtic Phoenix, you give them to the show, and they would do a better job than RWBY than Miles and Carrie right now.
Yeah.
All right. So
not just us.
Anyway.
Pappy the Harpy asked, and sorry if I end up skimming over one of your questions. I'm looking for question marks to answer. Pappy the Harpy asked, if you could rewrite the Grimm's role in the story, what would you add or change? I would make them a threat, and I would have the culture of Remnant actually like adapt to them, to where it's just like a fact of life that people die, but they have to like go beyond the city walls because that's where like the farmland is, and I would really just take the Grimm as a concept. I really like the Grimm. It's one of the things that drew me into the show.
Yeah.
They're just so underutilized and so wasted.
Yeah, they just haven't done enough with it, is kind of what I would say. Here's something a very specific thing I would do. During the breach, I would have a Goliath show up. And like have
what gives with Volume 3? In Volume 3 it shows the Goliath coming, but then they don't actually do anything.
Yeah, anybody else notice how we have yet to see anyone fight a Goliath, even though they were as this huge threat in Volume 2. During the breach, I would have a Goliath show up. Nobody can take it. Finally, the Atlas military has to just not literally nuke it, but they basically just have to blast it from space for it to finally go down. That is what I would do to just fix the breach and make it this huge threat and stuff like that.
Trayvon Armstrong asked, why does Yang call Raven mom, Summer RWBY's mom, and call Ty by his first name? Is she bipolar? Yes.
So the thing I'm going to add to the Grimm is that if you get killed by the Grimm, there's no heaven or hell. You just, your soul's gone, sucked into the ether, and it's like a religious
soul
thing.
Soul trap. Yeah.
I think it's because the writers can't write, and they just can't keep track of those kind of things. They literally forgot.
So for Trayvon Armstrong's question, that's something that Vexed Viewer brought up in his Yang rant.
Whenever
he made that like a week ago or whatever, however long that was. The days are blur. It's the dog days of summer. Every day is just blurring together for me. Yeah, it's weird, and I agree with him on a lot of those points.
I mean, she calls Summer Rose by her first name too. Summer and Raven by their first names
Yeah,
too.
the problem is when she calls Raven mom. It's
I think
like
they just forgot. I think they wanted like those scenes to have more impact, so they had her start calling her mom. And I think that's what they fucked up. I think before that they were fine.
She only calls him Tai Yang once that I can remember.
Yeah.
So the rest of the time she calls him Dad.
Meta Nightmare 445
And
asked.
she calls him to. I think the weird thing is that he signed his name to that. Is that he signed his letter to them as Tai Yang.
That was one of those things that was done for the audience's benefit and nothing else.
Yeah, so
which I'm actually okay with. That one I don't mind as much as a lot of the other.
It's weird and it's dumb, but it's necessary.
Yang, right?
Yeah.
So
Meta Nightmare 445 asked, anyone else hoping Whitley gets to be a real villain? Not really. No.
Yeah.
I actually am. I
want him to be a real character, and I wouldn't.
I just want him to be a heel.
Okay. This is a question I've been wanting to get to.
His dad and takes over. But anyway.
So this was actually originally asked on Twitter, but he reposted it here in the chat. And I've been wanting to get to this. Who is the most infamous RWBY fan? The answer is Dragon Age 2 for the win. No, the thing, Sorrel can be reasoned with. I've reasoned with him. He's wrong a lot of times. He's wrong a lot of times, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. He puts too much emphasis on the songs, but he at least has a point.
Or that we get that annoys us the most.
The most infamous RWBY fan.
But yeah, Dragons is there. He's at the top.
Yeah, I would have to say Sorrel. I think he gives Monty way too much credit, and
I would say Sorrel.
He likes Team
Cop. You obviously have not had to freaking hold down a conversation with Dragon Age.
I don't think I have. I've been mostly ignoring RWBY.
I don't care to try.
Yeah. Secure asked, what's your favorite Volume 5 moment? Weiss and Yang when they're in their room.
What was the question?
What was your favorite Volume 5 moment?
The airship battle was really good too also.
Yeah.
Devin Holmes.
Yang and Weiss's reunion.
Devin Holmes asked, "Who will join Blake's?"
My answer is right when the volume started, and I still had hope for it.
So Devin Holmes asked,
I realized it was going to be terrible.
I mean, we didn't lose hope. I don't think any of us really lost hope for it until like episode 11.
No, I lost.
It was 5 for me.
For me, it was like 4 or 5. Yeah.
Like 6 kind of rebounded, but 6 was also kind of a terrible episode, and then 7 was boring, and then 8 was kind of good, and then 9 was arguably the worst, and then 10 was, a little bit better than 9, and then 11 was arguably worse than that, and 12 was arguably worse than that, and 13 was arguably worse than that, and 14 was arguably worse than that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I would say in Volume 5, Episode 8, when Yang and Weiss are talking. Devin Holmes asked, who will join Blake's harem next? Oscar.
Sure.
I would prefer that. Just to piss off the Rose Garden shippers.
Oh, anything to piss off the Rose Garden shippers, please.
Agreed.
So,
Oscar, there we go. You can't fuck him up any more than he's already fucked everything up, so yeah, just Oscar.
Can he please die?
Yeah. Knock Days asked, outside of gunchucks, what's your favorite weapon?
Bernal's.
Nora's Magenhild.
Magenhild is up there for me.
Magenhild's probably number 1 for me. Which is funny
because worse lasers, it would be the hammer grenade launcher.
Yeah, I would say I really like. I like Corsia Moore's. I like Pyrrha's weapon. I would say Pyrrha's weapon. Mio.
I like Pyrrha's.
My favorite.
I like Pyrrha's weapon too. So here's something I recently said in one of my on my fanfic, or where I kind of rewrite things and stuff like that, where I basically said like, I think it's really dumb. I think it's kind of dumb that in like the second episode, RWBY kind of get like the show, like RWBY and by extension the writers basically give Jean grief for having really the most practical and like simple weapon on the show, while RWBY has a weapon that is like extremely impractical and was clearly thought up by Monty's inner 10-year-old. So John and Pyrrha's weapon.
So, nutjobification, nutjobification.
Okay.
Jesus, that's a name. That's a name. Uh, am I the donated $5 and asked, am I the only one that notices that during a lot of the angsty speeches the characters make, they sigh too much? Huh. I never noticed that. Now
I
I'm
did not
not going to
notice
be able
that.
to. Now I'm not going to be able to not notice it.
I'm curious as what he means by angsty speeches. Does he just mean everything that Blake says?
Like, have you seen
Probably.
Blake's in, or
Probably.
I will
maybe
look
I'll
for that
listen.
now in the future, though. That's an interesting
I'll look
point.
for that.
You know, I recall Yang doing that a lot during their freaking mother-daughter talk.
I don't remember that.
Oh, she did. That's a good. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. She did do that.
Maybe I'm still trying to erase it from my mind, but
That's. I mean, that's a fair thing to notice. It's just that probably something we didn't notice as much because we were, you
Yeah.
know, there's so much other terrible things.
Alex Lopez asked, "Who would you say is your least favorite villain in the series?" Cinder got ruined pretty hard in Volume 5, but I would say my least favorite has always been Emerald. I just don't like her.
Neo's
Emerald
the one,
has the Stockholm syndrome pretty bad.
Neo's the one that I care the least about. Like with all the other villains, I think I said this earlier. I want to like all of these villains. Neo's the only one I don't care about. So I don't know what that says, but right now it's I don't know.
I would say it's Corsac and Fennec. Just because they're so incompetent.
Either
that or
scrolling down a bit.
Either that or Adam, because of how much they nerfed Adam. Even more than because I never liked Cinder that much.
With all these villains, it's more I hate done with them than I hate like them as a concept.
So, next question. Do you think a Team Stark, and this is from Alan Tang, do you think a Stark prequel series could fix the plot holes and make the villains more threatening? No.
I don't care.
This is my statement with a Team Stark prequel. That is we're breaking the emergency glass. The viewership is bad enough to our shareholders are like, you need to do something. Yeah. That is the emergency red button.
Yeah, the whole yeah, the whole Stark prequel thing, I have the same opinion of that I had to the Solo movie. I don't care. I never asked for it, and I don't really. Yeah, I could.
There was one point we were kind of interested in it, but now
maybe a little bit. Like
okay, I think we're caught up with the YouTube chat. So let's start talking about
honest look. Yeah,
my honest looks.
Yeah, okay.
Let's do the thing we said we would do.
Yeah. So first,
you should probably put a timestamp too, by the way, for when we start the honest look discussion.
Yeah.
That's
all right. I'll make a note of that. I know there's a way you could just be like boom, but I don't know that way, so I'm actually just typing it into my phone. That an hour and 12 minutes in, we start talking about honest looks.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Because I just watched through all of them, so we better that effort worth it. Yesterday and the day before, I watched through all 20 of them.
Technically, the first honest look was honest look at coffee, but when I actually made the playlist later on, I decided to throw all my non-episodic RWBY reviews into that playlist, starting with the Valentine's Day special.
Oh, I love that episode.
I still agree. Although I was going to ask when I first saw it, and then when you did your actual when you did your second Valentine's video, that I'm pretty sure what's it called? Freezer Burn is now your favorite Weiss ship?
Probably.
Yeah. Like
It was monochrome for a while.
Yeah, it was monochrome. Now it's freezer burn. I agree with that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
mostly agreed with.
so kind of the behind the scenes stuff. So this was when I was still using Movie Maker for everything. And Movie Maker, there
Exactly.
are some things I really like about Movie Maker. I like that it automatically resizes things to where it fits into the frame. I think it's actually a lot easier to do the text things, the text blobs, and make like a credit sequence or make a title sequence. I think it's easier to do that in Movie Maker than in Adobe. And sometimes I'll do it, and I'll like make the majority of the video in Adobe, and then I'll still like put some stuff in like text crawls and stuff with Movie Maker because Adobe Media Encoder is an absolute garbage encoding device. And I actually like render bits and pieces at a time from Adobe and then throw it into Movie Maker for the final render. Um, but with this one, I actually did each part separately, which is why the audio quality is so inconsistent because I'm literally recording those bits days, sometimes weeks at a time. Because I recorded a lot of that before Volume 4 ended. I recorded like Arcos,
Yeah.
Monochrome, Freezer Burn. Uh, what were the other? I think I recorded Lancaster before Volume 4 had ended. Uh, I record. I recorded like half of them before the volume ended, and then half of them after the volume ended. And so I actually like recorded, did the audio editing, rendered the audio, uh, constructed the video, and all of that for each one individually. Then rendered those parts, and then when I had all of them rendered, then I threw them together and threw in the audio. That's when I threw in the audio transitions, which is also why no one noticed this that I'm aware of, but how it flashes like the shipping name. It's kind of like sometimes it'll be a second, sometimes it'll be 5 seconds. That's because I did some of them and then I did more of them without actually like paying attention to how long I was trying to make them. So
Gotcha.
yeah, a lot of laziness with that. And I really like the way it turned out. I do not like how I had to throw my musical preferences out there for the world to see.
I love that. Are you kidding me? The
I
music's
love
the,
the
That's
music.
like
the
like
transitions
I
are
had
one of the
I had a
best.
Katy Perry song.
whenever you
Like,
throw out
Yeah,
your
but it
musical
makes sense
preference,
there.
that's like whenever someone fires up eHentai and then they click the search bar and they just see all the things you search up. You really get to know a person whenever you know that sort of info.
You're allowed to like whatever music you.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
Yeah,
I thought you did a good
And
job with.
actually, yeah.
I think the second one, the music transitions were even better, but
well, in that one they were more consistent, and I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel of my like freaking music playlist trying to find thing. In the second one I used freaking Rainbow Veins by Owl City for Blake X Ilia. Like that's an
yeah, that one was
obscure
good.
freaking song. Like even Owl City
That was
fans don't
good
even
though.
know that
I
song
hadn't even heard
exists.
that song, but it still made
It's
sense.
on
That's what
there.
was great about
It's
Yeah.
pre Fireflies. It's on the album that they did before the
it.
album
It's
that
pre
actually made them
Fireflies.
popular. Yeah,
Well,
it's
him.
from
Well, that's one
I'm
guy.
pretty sure it's either from the first EP from his first EP of June, or it's from his second album thing was maybe I'm dreaming.
Media
I know
skipping
way
is
too much about Owl City.
right now.
No, I like Owl City actually. I don't.
They're kind of just in my wheelhouse of like everything I like and appreciate about people.
No, I kind of like Owl City. I'm not an Owl City
Yeah.
hater at all.
I will say it's not
And
exactly
Stace.
exciting music.
No, but
It's
Stacy.
lullaby. Like I will I will legit when I have kids play Owl City to put my kids to sleep. Like that will be their lullaby.
Can we just talk about the Stacy's mom?
Stacy's mom
That was
has
the
got it going on.
It's
She's
like
on.
it's
My
like
favorite one from that
melodic.
video was actually the first one. The roses really smell like poo poo.
Oh yeah, that was good too. That was good too. Because fuck
Yeah.
Rose Garden.
Because fuck Rose Garden. Yeah.
Like, there is literally no good argument for Rose Garden. I don't care what anybody says. Even if Oscar is not going to get replaced by Ozpin, which, by the way, he is. If he's not, it's still fucking retarded. Makes absolutely no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
So fuck Rose Garden. And fuck Oscar.
But Stacey's mom, that was hilarious.
That was amazing. Yeah, the Stacey's mom thing was great. And I love your points about how the reason people skip it is because she is very similar to him, and it's actually, if anything, it strengthens Black Sun even more because they very specifically wrote into the show that Callie is very similar to Sun, and Gira knows that, and so Gira knows that Blake's going to fall for him. And as a Bumblebee shipper, I'm totally fine with that because they did actually, that was one of the things they did about that, probably the only thing they did about the Blake arc in that season well was that they set up Black Sun well with those things, and they made Callie enjoyable and all of that. And they really made Gira not hateable either.
Gira, Sun, and Callie were all like, the really bad part about Blake's arc was Blake. So.
And the fact that she had parents. I did call that. I totally call that. Her having parents that loved her made no sense. That is still true. That made no fucking sense. That is true because they didn't set that up properly.
So after that,
but they were okay.
So after that, I made my "What if RWBY Volume 1 was good?" This video was a pain to make because it was so much longer. It's not as long as the shipping video, but like I said, I chunked the shipping video out. Whereas the "What if RWBY Volume 1 was good?" was just such an ordeal of writing and checking back on my writing and then recording and then editing and constructing and getting it out there. And it was enough. I don't know if I'm going to continue that. I have a script. I have a script for What If Volume. I have a script, or most of a script for What If Volume 2 was good. I still don't know what I'm going to do with the Breach. And when I did the first one, it was still like a novel thing. Like not many people had done a video like that. But now you get RWBY rewrite projects everywhere. Like there's 4 RWBY rewrite projects going on our Discord right now. Robert's got his 2020. Coop and Secure got their RWBY rewrite project going on. There's another one who's doing like a RWBY 2.0.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, media, and no disrespect meant to anybody else, but you're the one with the YouTube channel, and you also have claim to.
And then, but then even on YouTube, you got Celtic Phoenix doing his fixing RWBY series.
Yeah, but you still did that early on. There's no reason you can't put a different spin on it. I don't know. I think it was a really good video. It was very interesting. I think you made some really good points in it, and it was compelling. And so I think you should keep doing it. And I especially think you should keep doing it because of how terrible Volume 5 is. So I think that makes it even more relevant. I think you at least have to do it for Volume 5. My
plan was to do one a year. My plan was to do one a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I still got basically until October to throw together What If RWBY Volume 2 was good.
And let's be honest, Volume 6 is going to be garbage, so you're going to have to do it for Volume 5 and let's be honest.
I'm looking forward to the retcons at the immediate start of Volume 6, like we had with Volume 3 for Volume 2.
I think we're hoping.
We're
hoping for retcons.
I was going to say, we have to beg and pray and plead for retcons because, as we've said before, retcons are the only way that the show is not absolute and utter trash, is with retcons. So,
I don't know. With all the RWBY rewrite projects, I feel like I don't know. I feel like the problem I see with too many.
I mentioned something about the one that we're doing here on the Discord on Twitter, and Celtic Phoenix actually replied, being like, "Yeah, it's kind of weird. I've been seeing a lot of these projects pop up too on fanfiction and on our Discord as well. It kind of tells you something about the show, doesn't it?"
Yeah, right?
Really makes you
Maybe-
think,
Yeah,
huh?
Really?
pretty much.
You wonder why those really only started popping up after Volume 5. I wonder. I wonder.
Yeah, all I was trying to do was do a riff of Belated Media.
Yeah.
What
I
if
think there
RWBY
was a
Volume
lot-
1 was good? Like, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours was literally a reference. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Anyways, we should probably move on to the next.
So,
Well, I wanted
Okay,
to
so-
say something here.
Oh yeah, let Robert speak first.
Alright.
Then we'll move on.
Well, yeah, something I wanted to say here. I feel like too many of these rewrites think that they have to like rewrite a bunch of the world building, omit a bunch of the characters, stuff like that. I don't know. What really frustrates me about RWBY and what I'm trying to do with my rewrite is that there's a lot of really good stuff that is right there with a lot of these characters. Like, obviously, I do agree writing out things like Team Coffee and Oscar and stuff like that, but like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that is just right there. You don't need to completely do a complete overhaul of the plot and the world building and the cast and stuff like that. You just need to take what you've got and make it work.
yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
that's
My
kind
way-
of that's kind of my issues with the
Except for the-
Discord rewrite that some people are on.
Yeah, that was my issue too with like the one that goes on under Discord. Like, it's their thing, they can do it, and I'll kind of advise them
Yeah.
on it. I was like, you've got a lot of chefs in this kitchen. You need someone that's just in charge of the entire thing. But like, I don't think you need a complete overhaul. You really just need to I don't know. I think it really just needs a tidying up, really, in a lot of places. Is really what it needs.
You could
But,
definitely argue from both sides where it's like we're gonna keep it this as like similar as we can,
yeah.
or it's fucking we're stripping it down to the frame. We're rebuilding the damn thing.
Yeah.
Real quick, Annan donated $5 and said, "You're rewriting RWBY? You're rewriting RWBY? I'm rewriting RWBY. Are there any other RWBY rewrites I should know about?" Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot going on.
Probably a few too many. Yeah.
Mine would be I would change up. I would add a lot of the details in volumes 1 through 3 and streamline a lot of the process and make the disparate character arcs. Like, that was a big thing. And what if RWBY Volume 1 was good was tying the reveal of like Jean's backstory of him being a loser, and have that happen. Have that coincide with the reveal that Blake is a faunus. Tie those two character arcs together. Like, that was the biggest change I made in my Volume 1 video.
Yeah. I just have
And then after Volume 3, it would just be RWBY Beyond, because I already have that fanfiction series. Like,
All right, my dinner break is done. I'm gonna head back in to make more O-rings.
nice.
Have fun. Have fun, high power.
So with the next video, the next video is so I put a poll. I put a poll up on Facebook and Amino, asking what should my next video be, and I don't remember all the options I had. I had why I liked Volume 4. I had why RWBY is my favorite character. I had why I don't like Team Coffee, and I think I had another one. I know there was one that never ended up seeing the light of day. It was a breakdown of the openings that I just never got to. It's still, like, I actually have half the script. I have breakdowns of the first two openings that have been just sitting on Google Docs for over a year now. It's just something I've never gotten to. And the one that actually won was the honest look at Coffee. That won the polls by a landslide. But at that time,
considering how many dislikes it got.
But I ended up doing the Volume 4 video first because I felt like it was important to do that video first, because Volume 4 was getting a lot of hate it did not deserve. Like, you don't... RWBY is not that great of a show. You don't have to make up flaws. It's like Donald Trump. You don't have to make the stuff up. You can just call him out on his actual BS. You don't have to make up fake news in order to try to slam him, which is what always ends up happening. Like with RWBY Volume 4, I like RWBY Volume 4. It has its problems. It has big, glaring issues.
It has the same problems the show's always had.
But a lot of the problems people bring up aren't actually problems.
That
Yeah.
Blake arc is
Like,
utter
pacing.
garbage. And it
Yeah.
continued to be
But she's
utter
always been
garbage into
garbage.
Volume 5. So it's like,
Yeah.
we know that that's a problem. We know it's not perfect. It's still easily
Yeah.
the best volume of the show.
So
It's just-
the
it's the
title of
closest
this
the show
video is
got
the
to
best.
being
Yeah.
good.
So
Yeah.
the title of this video is the best volume in RWBY. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact: it actually got copyright claimed by Rooster Teeth because I used too much footage at once. Like I had a 15-second block where I didn't make any cuts because I was lazy, and then I didn't even bother disputing it or re-editing the video because I was making I wasn't going to put in that much effort for pennies. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
caring about the ad revenue.
Yeah.
If I were to do it today, I would certainly re-edit it so I can get that ad revenue. But you know,
It's fine. You
um,
got a lot of other videos you're doing and all that
yeah,
stuff.
and
So you're
I've
fine.
defended Volume 4, and I've talked plenty about Volume 4,
Yeah.
Volumes 3 and 4 on other things. There's
Yeah.
no reason to really for me to get into it.
Here's one thing I will say about the debate over whether or not I don't know. Volume 3 and Volume 4 are both the two best volumes of the show.
In fairness, I can understand people saying Volume 3 is the best. I disagree, but I can understand it.
Yeah, I can understand why people think would argue that Volume 3 is better than Volume 4. If they say that Volume 1 or 2 is better than Volume 4, they're stupid and they
or 5. If 5, they're retarded.
Yeah, or 5. Yeah, if they say those are better than Volume 4, then yeah, they don't matter. But
if Volume 4 is not 1 or 2, you're wrong. Basically, if volumes 4 and 3 are not 1 and 2 in some order, you're incorrect.
Yeah, so volumes 3 and 4 are are the two best volumes. And here's the thing: is that a lot of people try to make the debate between volumes 3 and volume 4 a debate of whether or not the show was better off with Monty at the helm or not. Here's the thing: Volume 3 was in production for 16 months. Monty died 4 months into those 16 months. Okay? He was not that involved. So whether Volume 3 was better than Volume 4 or not, it does not mean that the show was better with Monty at the helm. So that's just
I actually had this discussion with High Powered and Secure earlier today. Because I can't even remember why I started talking about how movies are structured and stuff, and what is the job of a director and what makes a good director. I don't think Monty was a good director. I don't think he kept the team together as well as he should have, and that's the director's job. The director's job is to make sure everyone else is doing their job.
Yeah,
and Monty would go off on his own,
expecting everyone to ride around his fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Monty
was as a director and a project leader, not actually. Yeah. And also, let's be real here. This is going to sound really harsh, but he made the decision to include Miles and Carrie, and that was kind of a mistake. So it is. It was a fucking mistake.
He kind of had Miles forced on him. That was Bernie's call to have Miles be the head of story.
I mean, he was working with what he had to work with. Rooster Teeth only had a few writers, so
yeah.
The fact that he decided to work with that he decided not to do all the writing himself is probably a good thing. And also,
that's true. I'll give you that's true.
I really do think Miles can do a lot better than he has on RWBY. I really do think that. Okay, he gave us Felix, for fuck's sake. All right, he gave us the 3 best episodes of season 14 of Red vs. Glue. He can do better. All right. And he has given us Camp. He does deserve quite a bit of credit.
No, it's true.
He does deserve credit for. Yeah, he is not.
He's not talentless.
He can do better than what he has done on RWBY. So for whatever reason,
he's seemingly talentless in RWBY, but he's not actually a talentless writer. I agree with that. As much as
I don't know why he's done so horribly on RWBY, because he can do better. He has done better.
Well, first of all, anybody who's working on projects should be working on one project at a fucking time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're someone like Steven Spielberg, who was working on Jurassic Park to deal with the depression of directing Schindler's List.
Well, okay, he's not that good, so that's different, you know, because
you need
now
to be,
now
yeah,
Spielberg's a sellout now, but I mean he is actually brilliant and he
he
did
was
make amazing
amazing.
shit.
Yeah.
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 Although E.T. is the most overhyped pile of garbage in the history
I
of cinema.
love E.T. E.T. is one of my favorites.
I hate E.T.
It's not my cup of tea, but
But otherwise, Spielberg's
I
genius.
understand why people like it, but it's
I
not my
really
cup of
have no idea why people like E.T. To be perfectly honest.
tea. That's okay.
That's like literally that might actually be my least favorite movie of all time that I've ever seen.
Aw.
That's terrible. You have poor
It's
taste.
so bad.
So
Or
so
maybe you've just
speaking of
seen really
speaking
good
of poor
movies.
taste, the next video is an honest look at Team Coffee, the first video to bear the honest look moniker.
So in our last podcast, I had some people ask me about I made a reference to how they're bringing back the fan service, and some people were all like, "What are you talking about? Who was the fan service?" Team Coffee is fan service. They only exist because the fandom wanted them to exist, and nobody watches them for like their personality or anything. They just want to jerk it to Coco and Velvet. That's literally the only reason they exist.
Can I
That
make
they are fan service. Okay, you don't need gravity-defying boobs and
Here's the
and
thing,
upskirts
because I
to be
spend
fan service.
and here's the thing, because I spend so much time making fun of the fandom in that video, every single Team Coffee fanboy that has
Hated you?
shrieked at me over that video just proves me right.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, can I make another point too? Is
Yeah.
if that video was released today, the like to dislike ratio would be entirely different.
I don't know.
Maybe.
A
No, I
lot
really
of
think
the
it
a
would
lot
be.
of those dislikes are more recent.
Really? Are they really?
Like
Huh,
like when I remember when it first came out, like the like to dislike was always like a lot worse than my other videos, but it was still like very much more likes than dislikes by a significant amount. Like it was like 60 to it was like a 60-40 split between likes and dislikes
yeah. Maybe.
until my channel started getting bigger, starting with the honest look at fight scenes, but then after volume 5, and that dislike ratio has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger with each
Interesting.
passing month.
I think.
Interesting.
I mean, I still
It's
maintain that that's a very, very
Team Coffee
accurate
that will
video.
fix the show. But yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like the only reason they should be this is me still being slightly optimistic, which is they should only bring Team Coffee back for one episode in which they are brutally murdered to give the villains back their mojo. That is the only.
Yeah, I mean that would actually be fine if they did that.
That would restore all of my hope in the show at that point. I would be like, okay, yes. But,
My God,
And also the fact that a lot of the comments just don't understand that an honest look means an opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know how many freaking people have grilled me on that title being quote unquote misleading, even though again like I put up a poll saying why I don't like Team Coffee will be in the next video, and then the next video is an honest look at Team Coffee. What did you expect?
I think people are really dumb about like I don't know. I think people are really dumb about the whole opinion thing. It's like, well, that's just like your opinion, man. It's like, first of all, what he's calling an opinion is an opinion. It's a statement. But anyway, but like people claiming that like, oh, this is just our opinion. Oh, you can't actually, or
No,
there's
you
actual.
no. You see,
Here's the thing that
the problem is that people who criticize RWBY are using outdated methods of criticism that they learned in school, and they just don't understand the complexities and intricacies of Fuck Hero High.
Who's Hero High?
The dude who made the freaking why RWBY critics are wrong video.
Yeah, basically he's all, oh no, complicated and
He literally pulled a variation of the, well, you actually have to have a high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
No, you
Did he
don't.
really?
Yeah.
here's Rick and Morty for you. It's everything sucks. Everything is depressing. Dan Harmon hates life. But
Yeah,
and
it's
I don't
a
know.
it's a
But
shittier
like
version of Futurama.
but yeah,
It's nihilist Futurama, which I
basically,
I
yeah.
don't like nihilism. Nihilism is so stupid and overdone now.
Oh,
Nihilism is
nihilism is dumb.
nihilism to me is just like, oh, the world doesn't revolve around me, therefore it's a terrible place.
No,
No,
now
actually,
with
the
that
world now
said,
revolves.
nihilist
Wait,
Arby's
but
is an excellent Twitter feed that you should be following if you're on Twitter.
Well, the
fair enough.
only good
But
nihilist stuff is fake
yeah,
nihilist stuff.
yeah. But back to my, but like, I don't know, just back to my point about people, calling like opinions and stuff like that. There are objectively bad ways to write. There are
Yes, there
objectively
are.
bad ways to make movies. All right? Like I think it's very telling that people have to come up with. I think everyone who tries to defend RWBY Volume 5 knows that it is an objectively bad volume and they have to come up with shitty, that's just your opinion. It's to,
I've been
refine
getting a
your
lot of the
take.
same kind of defenses on the Star Wars pages that I'm on, of people
Oh,
defending The
don't
Last
fuck
Jedi.
with the Star Wars fandom. Oh my god, if there's any.
I still like The Last Jedi,
People
but I
like I still
understand why
I'm yeah
people
I'm
don't
still
like
on the
it.
side of defending it too, but a lot of the people defending it
Yeah.
are
I
terrible.
think I think I think it's yeah, I think that kind of like what we talked about at the beginning. The Last Jedi's strengths are good enough to make up for weaknesses. Like that's really what I think. And some of the things that people complain about, like Leia Poppins and stuff like that, I'm actually okay with. So anyway, that's it.
That's one of
But
those
like
things that would have been completely overlooked if there were less other problems. So I don't.
exactly, if Holdo and Rose weren't thing, then people
The funny thing is, the
Leia
thing that I
Poppins.
had a major problem
Although,
was how fucking slow the bombers moved. Like
yeah,
that just
that's a,
makes no goddamn sense.
B-wing master, where's the B-wing master race when you need it?
Yeah, like that
although
made no
something
sense. That was contrived. That was really contrived.
yeah. So
That
like
bothered me way more.
yeah, but like there are bad things to do in when making a film and in writing anything and stuff like that. There are objectively bad ways to do it. RWBY
Yes.
Volume 5 is an objectively bad volume, and I think everyone knows it. They have to come up with really, really stupid ways to try and defend it that don't work. So,
Oh yeah,
anyways,
I have
that's
to
my
admit
thing.
that I
And
myself
Team
used to
Coffee is
defend.
a bad part of the show.
I used to defend RWBY more than I should as well, to be honest. I have to admit
Same,
that back in the
same,
day, I was
same.
wrong. I used to defend RWBY as a show more than I should have. I've said this before. There was two guys I was arguing with on RWBY Republic one day about how the Grimm didn't affect the world of Remnant enough.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, oh, who cares? Like, because I liked the show. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't matter. And now I realize, no, those guys were
Yeah.
totally right. And the Grimm should totally affect the people more. So whoever those guys are, I've said this before, I apologize. You guys were
Or they should
entirely correct. And
if
I was
nothing else,
wrong.
they should establish what kind of an effect. They're like,
It's just more
basically
the point
just the
that, like,
Titans, beginning of a Titan.
until
okay,
you develop a more critical eye for the show, you're probably wrong. Is my point. And I have to admit, the reason I know that is because I used to be one of those people. As overconfident as I come off on this podcast, I will admit that I've been wrong about a lot of stuff in the past. Most of that stuff was before I started this podcast, but I've said some really incorrect things about RWBY in the past.
Yeah, and maybe this is for later on when we like how we got started and stuff like that. But I started to like the show even more as I started to develop a more critical eye of it.
Yeah. Real quick, how the Survivor asked how long you guys streaming? As long as it takes, as long as we can, as long as we want.
We are a long-winded group of guys, but we should
yeah,
probably move on. Sorry about that.
Us three specifically could probably talk for 6 hours.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So, moving on from coffee, which I stand by every single thing I said in that video.
Oh yeah.
Anyone who says otherwise just further proves me right.
You're still completely correct in that video. That video does not need to be changed at all.
No.
Yeah.
Totally correct.
God, which video was it that was like, oh, I think it was in my Pura video where I'm like, yeah, a lot of my honest looks don't hold up because of Volume 5. Even the Team Coffee video could possibly not hold up because Coffee could easily just be shoehorned back in and then there'd be more stuff to say about them. But I stand by every single thing I said.
Oh yeah, as of
So
right
moving
now,
on.
still, it all fucking holds up.
So moving on to an honest look at Ruby Rose, who was at that time my favorite character in the series.
Oh, this
And
one,
you were
unfortunately,
right. You were at the time right.
I
5 came in and
slightly disagree because at that time I still honestly believe that Weiss was the best character in the show.
okay.
Yeah, we talked about that with
But
the
at
character
the time,
character ranking podcast.
yeah, but also at the time that video did in general hold up. Now it certainly doesn't. It definitely doesn't anymore. And you yourself have talked about your own views on Ruby have changed since that video.
Yeah, Ruby was
because my whole
because my whole her biggest flaw.
My whole thesis was that she's the one who actually does stuff. She's the one who inspires people to action. She's the one who picked a fight with Torchwick in the first episode. She's the one who helped Glinda by shooting Cinder, even though it didn't do anything. She still tried. She's the one who kind of forced Weiss to go on her character arc. She's the one who tried rounding up the people to find Blake. She's the one who tried to confront Cinder in the CCT. She's the one who's done all this stuff. She's the one who inspired everyone else to act. She's the entire reason why we even have a Volume 4 and it didn't just end at Beacon.
Yeah.
But then in Volume 5 they just have her sit around and sit on a couch for 10 episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
And not ask about her silver eyes and not try to work on her semblance and try to train on something that she doesn't actually need training on because she should she should have the upper body strength to punch holes through dudes if she's hurling freaking crescent rows around.
Well, that's a Volume 2 problem. In fairness, that's a Volume 2 problem.
But they bring it back. It's so dumb. It was dumb in Volume 2 as well, but if it would have just stayed in Volume 2, then I would have been fine.
And here is the thing, is that a bunch of fans complaining about, so in the director's commentary, they basically, we decided to sideline Team Ranger because we had a bunch of Team Ranger. Yeah, you had a lot of Team Ranger, but you didn't have a lot of Ruby Rose, and that's what people wanted, and a lot of people wanted to see more, felt like Ruby got, shafted, and we were saying, well, yeah, but Ruby's had such a huge impact on it up until now that it's okay for her to take a break. We were wrong. And then they basically have her just taking a whole nother break, and it just ruins her. She had, so I've recently been listening to some interviews with Jonathan Truby, who wrote The Anatomy of the Story, and he talked about how really the two most important things for, and I'm going to totally butcher, but basically what he talked about is things that a hero needs to have is a goal and a weakness. Ruby had so many weaknesses.
Oh, she's got a bunch.
She was not a good leader. She was reckless. She could not take orders and stuff like that. She was uncertain of herself. Volume 5 nuked all of those and just ruined her character. So, yeah, Volume 5.
Oh, yeah, the people that have been saying for a long time that Ruby was a Mary Sue are so incorrect.
She's still not, and she still is not.
Real quick before we talk about the Mary Sue video, Nutjobification donated $5 and said, "It's my belief that some fans accidentally fall into zealot territory, believing anything to affirm their faith in the series. Your thoughts?" Confirmation bias is a very real and very potent thing.
Absolutely. And
I'm guilty of it. Everyone is guilty of it. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar.
Yep. As cocky as I come off on this podcast every time,
we have been those personality. Yeah, but we have all been those zealots.
Like you know how much I
Part of the
smile every time someone makes up a fake news story to try to slam conservatives, and then it gets debunked. Do you know how happy that makes me feel when it gets debunked? Like that's confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. No, for me,
Yeah.
it's. I definitely was after Volume 3. I was so into the show, head over heels in love with it. After Volume 3, I defended
Yeah.
everything, and I was definitely one of those terrible people that I hate about Ruby Republic at this point. And I thought that anybody who was talking shit was just an asshole and negative, and I did not realize it. I hated Fat Man Falling at that time. And then now you like listen to me talk to Fat Man, and now you listen to me talk to Fat Man Falling on the podcast that we did. And I was like, I fucking like, dude, I agree with you on so much shit.
Yeah.
Right? It's come so full circle, and I've watched like so many of his videos and his abridged
Yeah,
series.
I've never had to, I've
now.
never had to deal with confirmation bias when it comes to like movies and TV
I've come
shows
s-
because
I-
I've actually always enjoyed kind of like pointing out the flaw. Like as a little kid, I was like, tee hee hee, the Death Star thing is different in the visual graphic than it is in like the actual movie. Like I like pointing out stuff like that, and I like Star Wars is my all-time favorite movie, and New Hope is my all-time favorite movie, and I enjoy talking about like the flaws in that movie and
Yeah.
how
Being
because
able
it
to
actually
point out
actually
flaws and
points
still
out
enjoy
like
it is
because it actually points out the strengths in that movie when you talk about its
they
flaws.
highlight the strengths.
And again, to reiterate, like there are still reasons we are invested in RWBY,
And the opposite can be
want
and
the
the
show to
opposite
be
can be
good.
true as well.
Yeah.
Like pointing out like Batman and Robin gets a lot of hate, but there are some good things in it. But pointing out those good things just further highlight how bad everything else is. And I think RWBY is working very much on that same level, particularly Volume 5.
Yeah.
Where it's still like even the good stuff
that
just
we wanted
points
to
out
be
like
good about it and that we thought were good that have now been completely ruined.
it's like giving a man who is dying of thirst in a desert a small drop of water.
I think the proof that we are all truly fans of this show is the fact that we started this podcast in the beginnings, the first third of Volume 4, and we were really excited about the show, and like that was us three all say that Volume 4 was the best volume of the series. So we started off positive on the show and like getting more positive as we went, as the show continued to get better because Volume 4 was so good relatively to the show. And then everything went to shit. And this is actually, we've gotten bigger since things have gotten negative.
But and that's what sets us up hater because we actually do want this show to succeed. Like all this anger you hear from, this is genuine frustration with something that we want to be good.
If anything, we're the most honest because, and I mean, no offense to Fat Man Falling is honest, but it's like he's been a RWBY kind of like hater the whole time. He's always been a RWBY hater, but he secretly kind of likes the show, right? Like there's stuff he likes about it. But we were like actually big time fans of RWBY, like, and
we're actually
the show was getting really good and super hardcore rooting for it. And now we hate it because our hopes were dashed. So that just kind of, I hope that confirms like our genuineness and our criticism at this point. We're not doing it just to hate on the show. We wish it was better because we were hoping, we believed that Volume 5 was going to be great. We actually thought Volume 5 was going to be the best volume yet.
Yeah. The Survivor asked, what's your most worrying thing for Volume 6? Them ruining Weiss.
Ruining Weiss, I was going to say the same thing. Ruining Weiss because she's the one.
Also, that they'll do stupid Trump allegory, which goes into ruining Weiss.
Which does go into ruining Weiss. I don't really mind the politics part of it as much because it's expected because it's most media is liberal, so that's fine. I'm used to it at this point. But anything that ruins Weiss is bad, and not confirming Renora is another thing that I worry because, like, just still, why wouldn't you? But that's more my own biases of loving Renora so much. I would say that the number one is definitely ruining Weiss.
Yeah, my issue is
the core Oscar
and more Oscar, not
basically them staying
that.
the current course. They need, like we said, they need to retcon some things. It's the
Yes,
only
they
way
need
they're
to
going to.
Yeah,
not
they need
If
course
they keep
correction.
going in the
the funny thing about it is that yes, the thing we're worried about most is not retconning stuff. It's really sad that we're looking for retcons. We're desperately praying for retcons. I've never ever been in the position where I've prayed for retcons, but I do
Yeah.
pray.
So the next video was is Ruby a Mary Sue, which I don't stand
No.
by a lot of. I mean, I stand by the overall point that Ruby isn't a Mary Sue, but
Yeah,
I
but a lot
feel
of the
like
points are gone.
I feel like I couldn't quite put my finger on what actually defined a Mary Sue. I felt like that was just a
Yeah.
failure on my part, like not doing enough research or not doing enough reading on the subject.
You haven't discovered
Just going by what
at the time.
fandoms tell me a Mary Sue is.
Which, not to toot your horn too much, media, but I have to compliment you on admitting your mistakes from the past with this video.
Like
Something a lot
I
of
still
YouTubers
I
don't
still
do.
stand by the overall thesis that like no, Ruby
Well,
isn't
yeah,
a
no,
Mary
I
Sue,
agree with that too. But
which
I
was the entire point of the
And-
video. But it was actually
I
shortly
appreciate-
after. It was actually shortly after this video that someone on Facebook posted a link to Overly Sarcastic Productions video on Trope Talk. What is a Mary Sue? And then I watched it, and I fell in love with that channel. It's one of my favorite channels on
They
YouTube
are
now.
really good, yeah. And they pretty much nailed that. Basically, what a Mary Sue is there's someone who they're the author's obvious favorite, and the author does a really bad job of like concealing the fact that they're the favorite.
Yeah,
So really,
when the
I
internal
think
logic
Blake
of
is-
the series breaks in half for the benefit of whatever the character is trying to do
Of
with
the Mary
with
Sue.
the character, they're a Mary Sue.
Which I will say this: I think Pyrrha should have been a Mary Sue. Like, I think they should have had her be extremely OP and basically just keep hammering home she's like invincible. I think, like, for the tournament arc, they should have had it be Team Sun versus Team Juniper, and have Sun and Neptune fight, like, both double team Pyrrha with wooden weapons so she can't use her semblance, and they still can't lay a hand. Have the entire audience like watching this and going, "Oh my gosh, Pyrrha is such an OP Mary Sue. Why isn't she the main character? What is going on?" Then their brains explode when she dies. Like, that's what I think they should have done with her. But,
Yeah. So
And
the next
And I
video
think,
after
like-
that was an honest look at Blake Belladonna, which I stand by every word I said.
the only
I wasn't able to really dig into why I'm right in that video because the menagerie arc hadn't concluded and we hadn't gotten Blake pounding Adam into the dirt in one hit. So like it actually got worse.
yeah,
So
Blake,
somehow it
Mary
got
is more- is
somehow
on
Blake's character arc got worse, but managed to also become the best part of Volume 5. Like
that's
that's
just how bad the show got, though. Like, because
Yeah.
that part's still terrible. Because that part concluded with
yeah,
random faunus people from Menagerie coming over to fight the entire White Fang, which turned out to be like 6 people, and then nothing really happened, and then Blake dives into Adam's sword and totally nerfs Adam. That's
Yeah.
how bad Volume
really
5 was.
embarrassing.
What the storyline that ended with that bullshit was the best part of Volume 5. What was easily the worst part of Volume 4 and
Yeah.
technically continued to get worse in Volume 5 was still the best part of Volume 5. That's how
Yeah.
bad Volume 5
And-
was.
that is the massive
And to
drop in
think-
quality.
And to think that they proudly hinted at Volume 5 being a Boss Thing Say arc. Oh, the hubris of the RWBY writers.
I will never trust what the writers say. And not even because of that, because of Nomad of Nowhere. It's Samurai Jack meets Lord of the Rings.
No, it's not.
Dun 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 dun.
I
Just-
couldn't get past episodes. But yeah, and like Blake in Volume 5 was actually a Mary Sue. Like, the villains are stupid because so that she can get her army.
Oh God, that's
Ilya just
true. In Volume 4, she's not. Thank God, because the only reason Blake is not a Mary Sue in Volume 4 is
she
because
kind
of
is
Sun.
because
It's only because of Sun. Sun saves it because he actually argues with her and he questions her and he.
but he's still in love with her despite all of her shit. So I don't know.
Oh, that's true.
I question whether or not she,
Well, okay, I guess the point is you can question whether she's a Mary Sue in Volume 4.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is coming from an absolute Blake hater, me. But in Volume 5, you can't question. She's a Mary Sue in Volume 5.
Yeah, in Volume 5, the villain is stupid for her. And here's one thing that, so Ilya, according to Miles and Carrie in the director's commentary for Volume 5, the thing that actually made to change was Gira saving her life. I think you touched on that in your in your honest look at the White Fang media.
Which, by the way, they did not make that clear at all.
Yeah, that is not what we see. She chooses to help Blake be.
That's actually really interesting, and that would be good.
I will fight with Blake instead of saying I will fight with you, Gira, or something like that, or being like we said, that should have been the beginning of her face turn, not the end of it.
Yeah, goddamn, that would have been actually really good if that was what happened.
Yeah, where it's she's kind of questioning, and finally she tells Gira, all right, fine, I will fight with you, a life for a life, or something like that. That could have been pretty good. But anyway, Blake is just, she's terrible, and she's basically just a Mary Sue, so. Because everything just works out for her. With no effort on her.
Next is an honest look at Vaishni, which I finished a week before I uploaded, and I kept it from everyone just so that I could use screenshots and clips from the Weiss character short, because I knew that was coming. I finished that, and then I found out that that the Weiss character short was coming a week after that. Now I'm like, I'm gonna snipe this. I'm going to stay up all night waiting for that thing to drop, rip it into OBS, then use clips in a thumbnail from that, and then upload that. Within hours of the Weiss character short dropping, I had my honest look at Weiss.
Nice. And yeah, I still think you're right. Yeah, I still think they haven't managed to ruin Weiss too horribly. It sucks that we didn't get more of Winter in Volume 5, so we could get more of their dynamic. But yeah, Weiss is still, Weiss is pretty much the best part of Volume 5.
I'll just take y'all's word for how well it holds up. Here's the thing, and I said this before we started streaming, but once I'm done with a project, I like to not think about it ever again. So there are very few of these that I've actually rewatched since uploading.
The only real issue is and it's not. I don't blame Weiss, because the scene with her and Yang, where she tries to get Yang to agree with Blake, to not hate Blake. I understand that from Weiss's point of view. I really do. What would have made it a great scene would have been if Yang still didn't agree with her, because Yang shouldn't.
I see what you're saying, but I still can't do it. Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, Weiss should have said what she said. About it. I love Weiss for saying what she said, because it still proves that she has grown. The problem is that it shouldn't have affected Yang at all. That's the problem. Yang should have still been mad at Blake.
I don't know if I touched on this in this video, in the honest look at Weiss, but I know I've mentioned it before. And I think I mentioned it in the honest look at Ren and Nora, but the whole visual symbolism with her summoning, and how she has to how only by rejecting her father and trying to strike out on her own and become a true Schnee is she able to master it. That whole visual metaphor, and then how it got completely wrecked because semblances don't matter.
Oh god.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's Ren's fault.
She didn't escape completely unscathed.
That episode ruined Weiss without Weiss even being in that episode. Actually, no, she was in that episode. She did come in at the end. That was when Yang and Weiss reunited. But
not,
yeah,
but
she
still,
she
like,
she wasn't in that
part.
scene. She wasn't in that scene. She wasn't in that
Yeah.
story beat.
Yeah. Okay.
And then after that, we have my honest look at Ruby's fight scenes, which
I thought
totally
it was.
did not get
What
hate
about you?
at all.
No, not at all. Everyone loved it and thought you were totally correct.
Everybody
Although I
agreed
will
that
say,
everybody agreed that Monty was overrated.
this actually has had the opposite effect of the coffee video, whereas the coffee video started off like pretty moderate to positive to being an outright negative reception as time went on. This started off like super negative, like a lot of dislikes, but now it's sitting at 520 likes and 282 dislikes.
Nice. Yeah.
Like that's almost 2/3 of the rates are likes.
I think Volume 5 has started to remove some of the hype blinders from people.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
people have kind of realized, oh wow, these fights. Yeah, he's kind of got a good point about these fights.
Yeah, the fights
I
were
will
always
say
kind of
this.
bad.
I'm even looking in the chat, our chat right now, and I'm seeing so many negative comments about Blake, and thank you, all of you, for being correct in hating Blake. But it shows how far Volume 5. In some ways, Volume 5 is almost in some ways it's not worth it, but in some ways it's a good thing because it's proved a lot of us correct on things that we hated in the past.
Yeah.
Like Blake, for example.
It's
and
opened
now
up
the
people's
fandom.
eyes.
Now the fandom almost over. Now the fandom, for the most part, really does not like Blake at this point. It's in the past she was much more well liked, and after Volume 5, it's really flipped with how much people hate Blake.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a good
I was
thing,
ahead
I
of the
guess.
curve on that one. I hated
Hopefully
Blake
they
from the
listen.
outset.
Oh, yeah.
He was
You
always
were
my
even-
least favorite character.
You were even further ahead than me because I did not hate Blake in the beginning. I really didn't. I actually liked Blake in the beginning.
I
Now
don't think I ever
I'm
really cared about like all that much.
Now I hate Blake. No, the
And
media
now
was
it-
definitely the OG on that one. I like to claim I'm the OG on a lot, and I kind of almost slightly am, but I definitely wasn't on that.
But one thing I don't think I think I was too easy on the fight scenes from Volume 4 because a lot of the fight scenes in Volume 4, though
Yeah.
well written, had a lot of the same problems that the fight scenes in Volume 5 ended up having. Except Volume
Yeah.
5 like did it even worse, and it really just showed how bad they kind of were the entire time. Like I've told
Volume-
Floof this, like Ruby is broken. Ruby was always broken.
Yeah,
That's
here's
also
what I
very
will
true.
say. I don't know. This is something that I do frequently, or that I frequently say to people, is that the only thing Volume 4 did worse than any other Volume 4 is the fight, like, animation. The fight animation itself. I still think you were right about Volume 4 having better, like, I don't know, the fights actually meaning something and actually trying to kind of tell more of a story and have beats and stuff like that. But I will not deny that the like choreography and the fight animation themselves did take a big hit in Volume 4. But that is the only thing Volume 4 did worse than any other volume.
I mean, I'll agree with that because I hated the Volume 4 fight scenes more than I think even you guys did because I never liked anything. I really never liked the Geist fight. And I really hated the Sea Dragon fight. And
I'm actually okay with the fight, but
I prefer the
That's
Geist
what I'm
fight.
saying.
I think the Geist fight is better than the Sea Dragon fight, but that's just because there was actual teamwork involved.
well, no, I agree with that, but I think they're both garbage. I think it's comparing garbage to garbage. Personally. But so I'll agree with that the Volume 4 fight scenes definitely took a hit in choreography because I didn't like either of those.
choreography and animation.
Yeah.
But that's the only...
So this video is really what exploded. This was when I went from like having 300 or 400 subscribers at the time to having 1,500 subscribers in the course of a week. And it got me so much money that I was able to save up and get Adobe Premiere Pro. And so an honest look at Yang was the first video I made using Adobe Premiere Pro, and it's another example of me having been mostly finished with the video long before it came out because I was waiting on that Yang character short and waiting and waiting, and then they
Oh,
announced
God,
that
yeah.
it would come out after the theatrical premiere for Volume 5.
Yeah.
which was stupid.
It would come out the same day as the Volume
Oh
5
yeah,
premiere for first members.
I forgot how retarded that was because there was so many other problems with Volume 5. I forgot how much they fucked that up.
Yeah, so my main
Yeah.
complaint with this video, this is the one that's in a really dumb aspect ratio because it was the first time I was using Media Encoder, and as I said earlier, Media Encoder is garbage. Like you really have to dig through some menus in order to get a video to render properly.
Yeah.
And
And
this did not render properly. This rendered in a very bad aspect ratio. I didn't catch it until it was on YouTube, and by then it was just like, I'm not going through all that again. I'm not figuring out how to do this and just re-uploading it. Whatever. I don't care.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually think that you're I don't know. I don't think I think Yang is another suffer as much from volume 5. Like Raven, I don't know. Maybe she suffers a little bit just by association to Raven, but like I said, they could have made Raven's thing like hypocrisy thing not be stupid and made that work. But and like if they had done that, then all of the reactions to what she does would have actually made sense. They would have worked. So I don't think the problem with like what happens between Raven and Yang in Volume 5 is necessarily Yang. I think the problem is all Raven. And so, other than Yang forgiving Blake at the end, like, I think Yang was actually a pretty good part of Volume 5, but I don't know. That's mostly me.
That
And,
and the
like-
fact that she went towards Raven, she clearly turned right toward Mistral.
That too, and that was another. Yeah, so another dumb thing that the director.
But yes, otherwise, on every other point, I agree with you. Her seemingly forgiving Blake is idiotic and unforgivable if they go through with that. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
but her reactions to what Raven does, like, it makes sense. And if Raven had
It's
been written
misplaced
better, it
though
would have been
because
pretty-
she's the one who puts emphasis on why would you turn someone into birds while also ignoring the fact that he is literally
Yeah.
talking through the body of a freaking 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I mean, again,
so
I'm gonna put that on Ozpin more than her. Like, just
I put it. Yeah, I would put that.
I'm gonna
more
put it on
Raven,
Raven.
so-
Not I'm gonna put the stupidity on Raven. Not
Yeah. So yeah. So again, maybe I don't know. Maybe Raven was or Yang was kind of damaged just by association to Raven, but I think she came out of it not as badly wounded as every other character.
I'll be
But
honest.
so and
She's gone from one of my least favorite characters in the beginning of the show to probably the second
yeah.
least bad character. That's we're gonna classify. We're not gonna call her the second best. She's the second least bad. Weiss is the
Yeah.
best character, and Blake is. And sorry, not Blake. God, Blake sucks. Yang is the second least bad character right now. I actually think
Yeah.
that, and that's even with her,
And-
in my opinion, getting kind of shafted in Volume 4 a little bit.
Yeah.
I know
but
Robert
so-
disagrees. That's fine. I do agree. She's probably the second best or second least bad right now.
Yeah. And so
Oh, can I just point out I don't
just in regards to what the director's commentary said about Yang deciding to go towards Raven and stuff like that, that was basically a really stupid intentional misdirect because apparently they wanted us to be guessing at where Raven was going at the end of Volume 5, of Volume 4, but because Yang, first of all, went in the direction of Mistral clearly, and because she said, "You're in so much trouble when I find you," which she would not be hypothetically saying to Raven, they decided to do this whole thing. It's like, you guys are really dumb.
Yeah.
So
so
that was
so
an intentional
that was
misdirect, which is
so that was the last video I made before Volume 5 started. And also, can I just say,
Ugh.
because I said it on a podcast and I said it in a review, I don't think I actually said it in Honest Look. I did make like a visual reference to it in my most recent video, but in the director's commentary, they proved me right about Lionheart being freaking affirmative action basically only getting the job because he's a faunus.
Did they really?
Yes.
Uh,
Like the whole
How so?
joke, and it was a joke. I was joking. I was just making fun of Ozpin when I was like, "See, this is where affirmative action gets you." But no, that's true.
What did they say? You gotta tell me.
because they think that it's
it
a
was
good
something. It
thing.
was something along the. They said something along the lines of Lionheart is a faunus, and Ozpin put him in power. Strategically put him in power for that reason.
Oh, that's bad.
That would be like if we elected the first black president, and then he ended up being way worse than Obama ended up being. Like if he
See,
if he were to just be the black power,
here's the thing.
like if he started doing like white genocide.
I mean, that's okay if they think that it was a bad decision, but they probably, knowing Miles especially, they probably don't think it was a bad decision.
Yeah, no.
Like
they
no,
probably
Lionheart
don't.
just made a bad choice later on.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, the first video I made, I actually made this during Volume 5, during that off week with Christmas, which
Okay.
was an honest look at the Vital Festival.
Oh.
Oh, that's right.
The worst conceivable tournament arc.
Yes, High Powered is back. Yes.
Yeah.
Which
Hi,
I actually have very little to say about it because I don't watch those kind of anime, so I don't know anything about tournament arcs except for Pokemon, which are also pretty terrible because the same thing happens in every single one. Ash gets close and then he gets fucked over every single time. It's kind of dumb.
Yep.
Kind of, yeah. With I don't know.
I think this one holds up. This one is much more recent,
No,
so it's going to
I
hold
think
up
it
a lot
holds
more.
up from the stuff that I.
Honestly, I think they could have fixed the tournament all they had by just adding some real stakes. Like that's really all they needed to do, and it would have been 10 times better in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's one of the biggest points media makes is that there needs to be
And
like
also
a reward.
by
There
like using
needs
it
to be
as an
reason.
opportunity to actually do some good stuff. They should have taken it as an opportunity to show Jean getting good at fighting, show that Pyrrha is OP. You know, I don't know, show that Team RWBY isn't the best at teamwork or something like that. Like, they should have actually had these fights mean something and do something, but they didn't.
Maybe have a cool prize or something.
I'm actually, I would have been okay with them with it just being all about basically reassuring the people of Remnant that they are safe, kind of what My Hero Academia's tournament arc does, where it's all like, hey, these are the future of the Huntsmen, you're safe, things are going to be okay. And because especially after the breach, I could see actually a really high stakes thing. We need to let people, again, if they had made the breach matter, they could have said, okay, so the breach has just happened. People are losing faith in what Huntsmen are capable of. You need to go out there and prove them wrong, and stuff like that. Also, but yeah, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing for my rewrite. So yeah.
Yeah. So the main
Sorry.
thing that I think I was a little too harsh on is kind of the pacing, because they have such a small production time, and RWBY Volume 3 already had like a fight every single episode. There's only one episode in that volume that didn't have a fight. And so I think I was a little too like harsh on the amount of fights. Maybe it's just I didn't really
I
didn't really address how the time
the
constraints that they
tournament
probably
arc,
had on the production side.
Yeah.
It's
like
it's
I
it's
said,
li- it's like
16
it's like
months, but
trying to trash Lord of the Rings because Tom Bombadil isn't in it.
yeah.
It isn't in the movie.
That's actually one of the best cuts because as much as I enjoyed Tom Bombadil in the books, that's like one of the most strategic. That's actually a really good strategic cut.
I agree.
And they make up for it with because
just because when people say like, "Oh, people always say that the movies are worse than the books." No, when it's done right, you can cut stuff out of books and still make it brilliant. I love the Lord of the Rings books, but I also love the Lord of the Rings movies.
books naturally, because you can do it because you can read it at your own pace, and it is a word medium. It isn't a visual medium. You can actually get into a lot more detail on characterization and like internal monologue and stuff like that you just can't do in movies.
So yeah, getting rid of Tom Bombadil in Lord of the Rings, as much as I enjoyed his character and as much magic as it kind of added in the books, getting rid of him is not a problem at all. It's actually very strategic. Whereas nerfing Ginny in the Harry Potter movies is not forgivable.
Yeah, and I also think that and in the case of like another thing that I think they should have changed, like I think would have really saved them a lot of time for the tournament arc, is instead of is they should have just had Team Sun and Team Juniper fight each other in the first round. Like that way you don't have that way you can focus on those characters, and you don't have to create two entire teams that don't matter. And if you still want to cash in something, you can just have them fight Team RWBY instead of Team Auburn. It's like boom, problem solved. So yeah.
Yep, easy.
Plus, it makes Pure look that much fun. And
so I don't have anything else to say about that. But so next is an honest look at Ozpin, which was the first video I did after Volume 5 had ended.
You were pretty much spot on with everything.
The funniest video I've made.
That's definitely your funniest video you've made.
The crow failure count, the Ozpin body snatching bit, did I end up doing a skit in this one as well?
Good that you use the crow failing count in another video.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, I did.
And I don't even blame you for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also love the title card where he's wearing douchebag.
Yeah, he's wearing the douchebag hat. It's that feel when you are in charge for thousands of years and things just keep getting worse and worse.
Can I just say how much I loved that video too? Please do remember, and I know I claim that I called, but I was a bit more of an OG Ozpin hater.
Yeah.
I was. I really, because I was the one saying Ozpin should have stayed dead. I know at the end of the video you don't say that, but it does kind of like make me feel good about like just trashing Ozpin in that way. When I said like he should have stayed dead.
I still think they should have just stuck him with Crow, because I think that Crow said at the end of Volume 3, I'm gonna have to take over. I think it would have made sense. It would have
that would have been better.
It, and it would have given reason to be griping at Crow in Volume 4, like I don't know, at the end of in Volume 4. And if they do decide to do the whole make Ozpin a secondary villain, how heartbreaking would that be for RWBY to have to fight a man occupying the body of her uncle/mentor? It would be amazing. There's no reason to have invented Oscar to bring Ozpin back. Anyway. So yeah, that's something I think.
I actually, in fairness, I wouldn't have complained if that happened. As much as I would prefer Ozpin dead, I would not have complained about that. And I kind of would have been okay with him being inside of Jean instead. I think it was something you came up with as well, Robert.
Yeah, Jean or kind of leaning Crow nowadays, because I don't know. I don't like. I do think that Jean would have been putting him in. Jean would have been an interesting thing of just the two of them having beef with each other and Jean having a reason to actively resist Ozpin. But I don't know. Either one, I think, would have been better than what we got.
Well, again, as we've said, the one way they could save Oscar is having him and I hope that happens. I said the one way they can save Oscar is having him resist Ozpin.
Yeah.
And again, as much as I hate Oscar, if they do that, he will automatically not be the worst character. I don't want to hate him, but as of right now, I can't help but hate him.
I'm okay hating him, not caring. In all honesty, but
that's fair. Yeah. I don't want to hate anything in the show, I guess is my point, but I can see what you're saying, Robert.
Yeah. Now that we're in the more recent stuff, like all the stuff holds up because obviously we haven't had anything new.
I disagree with I don't know. There are some things I disagree on in the case of Jean.
Yeah,
I
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. So after Ozpin was the shipping video 2, the shippening.
Stacy's mom.
Stacy's mom.
Stacy's mom, Rainbow Veins. Oh god,
There's
what else
literally-
did I use?
Making fun of Rose Garden.
Yeah, Roses by Outkast. Oh god. What else did I do? I redid Lower Your Expectations. Or no, it wasn't Lower Your Expectations, it was Love Is. I reused Love Is, which was the end credit song.
Let's be honest. Using more Bo Burnham is never a bad thing.
Love Is was the end credit song in the first shipping video, and then it was the recap song for this one. Love Is taking that dive, getting really comfortable, and peeing in the pool, and
It was like a real life porn, except for all the things that makes
porn cool.
yeah.
By the way, apparently Bo Burnham wrote and directed a movie that's really fucking good that's about to come out like this weekend.
Oh.
It's called 8th Grade. And it's rated R. It's starring a girl that's supposed to be 13 years old and it's rated R.
Wow.
And apparently it's really fucking good.
Oh, I used freaking PYT by Michael Jackson for Snowbird.
Oh, that was good too. Yeah, that was good too. But yeah, I'm actually super excited to see Bo Burnham's movie because I really like Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
And apparently it's like really goddamn good. It's using, funnily enough, it's using the girl who played the middle of the 3 girls in the Despicable Me franchise.
I used Run Away With Me for Ladybug. That song is awesome, actually. I stand by that. That song is like almost perfect for just a relationship song. But the whole idea of running and I pulled it up on my phone because I wanted to recap like what songs I used.
Oh, nice. Gotcha. Yeah. But yeah.
And then Rainbow Veins for Ilya X Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one obviously makes sense. Even if you don't know the song, that one made sense pretty quick.
That's right. I used Tale as Old as Time for Toradana.
Oh yeah. That was pretty. That was.
I don't know why
That
I forgot
was,
that because I also
that was
used
the
that
obvious
song
one.
in the most recent video, in my White Pig video. I
think-
played a little bit of Tale as Old as Time in the background.
I think if there's any proof that you've gotten better over time media, it's the fact of how much better the music choices are in the second shipping video than they are in the first one.
I was really
not that they're bad in the first one. They're just like super fucking spot on in the second one.
Yeah.
well. I was coming into the shipping video with a lot more salt and vinegar than I was with the first one.
Yeah.
I was a lot
Well,
more
of course, 'cause
spiteful.
Wi-Fi.
The Volume 5 I was still like angry at Volume 5. I mean, I'm still angry at Volume 5, but it was a lot fresher when I was making this video. I just wanted to troll people hard. Which is why I freaking which is why I entertained like Toradana and had Tale as Old as Time, and I did Stacy's mom for freaking Cougar, I think is what I called it. And the ships were just not as good, not as dynamic. Like if they were better ships than they would have been in the first video. And yeah.
Well, yeah, and you made that point too. Like, but it's still.
Yeah. They're all crack ships, so except maybe Snowbirds.
Yeah, Snowbird is still like kind of technically in the realm of.
Well, I guess not crack ships really, because heaven forbid they all. But none of them.
I used a Avril Lavigne song for Emerald.
Oh yeah.
For Cinder X Emerald. I actually like that song. Well, I mean, I like all the songs I put in my videos. But yeah, I really like. I used to really like Avril Lavigne until she got like freaking dumb. With some of her more recent albums. So after the second,
basically after she started, she broke up with a guy from Sum 41 and started dating the guy, Chad Kroger.
Yeah.
She started dating Chad Kroger and her music got terrible.
Anyway.
Hold on. I think we have a streaming issue.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it says the connection. It says the connection is okay. What's the chat looking like?
I still see it moving, so
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah. It looks. I mean. Yeah. We're definitely fine now. Actually, it says it's bad, but we're still streaming. It hasn't like cut out.
Okay.
So our voices might be robot. I don't actually know what it looks like on their end. I just got the preview stream up and silenced. So after the second shipping video was RWBY Volume 5 worth it? Question
and
mark.
No.
why does that video obviously still stand up?
Yeah, that was my kind of looking back at Volume 5 as a whole. Kind of in the same vein as the Volume 4 best volume in RWBY video from last year. This was in very much that same vein. Yeah, I mean we've pretty much touched on all my points from that video already. Which brings me to an honest look at villains, which was the last video I made before I was forced to go on hiatus. Honest look at villains part 1, the Chaos Syndicate.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that I missed. I mean, obviously I wasn't able to go into as much detail as a lot of the other honest looks because I was going through like 10 different characters. I did Cinder, Mercury, Emerald, Salem, Watts, Tyrion, and Hazel.
Yeah.
That's what 7 characters I went through
Yeah.
for that video, and it ended up being at the time I think it was the longest. No, Vital Festival was longer. Fight scenes was longer. There's a couple that were longer, but it was up there, lengthwise. It was longer than the Yang honest look or the Osmond honest look. And yeah, I stand by everything I said in that video.
I
Yeah,
well,
you go.
yeah, so something I was talking about a little earlier. Cinder's plan could have worked. It could have made sense. And so, like I talked about how, she steals the dust to basically make Osmond look weak, weaken Vale's infrastructure, weaken their defenses, so that Ironwood takes action. And, like, that's phase 1 is get Ironwood to bring in his army. Then, when Ironwood shows up, Osmond will not, like the council, on Osmond's request, will not allow him to let his airships within Vale's airspace, will not allow his soldiers to, like, patrol the cities and stuff like that because that, and then, and so, he's kind of, and they basically have that conversation of, hey, you have a giant army overhead. People are going to freak out and wonder what's going on. So then phase 2 basically is the breach happens. The breach happens. It happens earlier than intended, but it still works exactly as Cinder planned it instead of, they make it very clear that it worked exactly according to plan, even though it was a little earlier and maybe didn't have quite as much damage as they intended. But it did what it needed to do in that it forced Ironwood to bring in his army. It basically forced and it basically forced him to come in and do his job and actually and get put in charge of being in charge of security. Allows him to start having his soldiers patrol, gets his airships into Vale airspace. So, like, there's actual consequences to the breach now. And then from there, it's just exactly what we saw there. And instead of Cinder stumbling across Penny, which she didn't even know existed, she instead says, "Aha! Finally found her. The final part of our plan." And I would say that instead of having Cinder instead of having Penny's death look like an accident, I would say hack Penny, have her go berserk and maybe kill a few people and, like, force Pyrrha to kill her. And so then the freaking out, like, oh my gosh, we don't know if we can trust Osmond and we can't trust Ironwood. What is going on? Everyone freaks out. then it makes sense for the Grimm to happen. So, yeah. And then
yeah,
they
that would have
also
made more sense to
and then they also
take
have
away
to,
confidence in Ironwood.
yeah, exactly. So they gradually take away people's confidence in Ozpin, have them put their faith in Ironwood, and then yank that away. And they can also, even go, and also I would say to further, I don't know, as far as the whole Yang and Mercury thing, instead of having like her just throw one punch at him, I would actually say that what they could do is have an illusion of RWBY run up, and then an illusion of Mercury kicks it in the face and like seemingly kills it, so that Yang goes berserk, and like then people are, oh my gosh, this woman is a psychopath.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
would be
That,
better
that
too.
would require
Yeah.
a creative use of powers.
Yeah.
I know, but still, he's still right that it would have been better.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so like they do, so then people are like, oh my gosh, this is, she's insane. We can't trust Ozpin. We can't trust Ironwood. Team RWBY has gradually been building up people's faith in them again. But holy crap, Yang just did this terrible thing and, nearly killed this guy. And then Ironwood has seemingly betrayed everyone. And so it, makes sense. And then people have a reason to freak out. So Cinder's plan could have worked if they hadn't treated anything like accidents and it, actually made things connect and actually had a sense of cause and
Which
effect.
wouldn't have even been that
yeah.
difficult. That's the most frustrating thing about it.
Exactly. Like I said at the beginning, it's all right there. This, it's all so simple, and it's all right there. And they just dropped the ball. They just didn't reach out and grab it. They didn't go that extra mile to make it work. So anyway, yeah.
So,
That's
Not Jobification donated another $5 and said, Miles, in season 6, please don't ruin Watts, please don't ruin Watts, please don't ruin Watts, please don't ruin Watts.
They should just make him a Walter White type of. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
And my answer is don't hold your breath.
So after that, that was when I went on hiatus. That was when we did the Volume 5 overview podcast, and we did the collaboration with Fat Man Falling, which I tried to record from a freaking hotel room. Oh god, that entire like 2 month stretch of my life was just misery incarnate.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
So then I came back and actually, you know what? Now that I think of it, I think the Was RWBY Volume 5 worth it the last video I did before the podcast, because I'm pretty sure I did an Honest Look at Villains. I had Honest Look at Villains recorded by then. I had the Chaos Syndicate like recorded and partially done by the time I was forced to go on hiatus, and so I was able to wrap that up. That's why I'm thinking, because that's how long ago it was that I actually recorded and did most of the work for that video. And then so Honest Look at the Chaos Syndicate was the first video I uploaded after I came back from hiatus. And then after that, I didn't have time to do an Honest Look at Villains Part 2 before I had to do Juniper Month, which I was not missing out on that pun. I was not going to, that was not having it. I didn't care if I had to like wait until like an entire year to have an Honest Look at Villains Part 2. I was doing Juniper Month. And I started that off with an honest look at Jean Arc.
So,
which I think has some of the worst audio quality, because I was dealing with a new set. I was dealing with a new setup. It was the first thing I had recorded after coming back from a hiatus, and I like had to relearn how to use all the things I use.
Yeah. So, a couple of things that I disagree. I still want to like Jean. Things that I feel like, I don't know. So in terms of like him not suffering any consequences for not getting into Beacon properly, I still argue that just because Cardin doesn't know he's a punishment for Jean not being prepared to like defend himself, I still think that consequences for like, it's a direct result of what happened. And so that's one argument I have there. Also, I liked Jean in Volume 4, like what they did with him. Like, what else were they going to do he was going to be, kind of angsty and upset over what happened to Pyrrha, and I think that he hit a nice, like you said, they didn't retard with it, and he still hit a good balance of trying to be okay. And again, if they stuck like Crow and Ozpin in Crow's head, then it would have made a lot more for him to have a beef with Crow. But like I was still fine with him in Volume 4, and also in terms of like I don't know, as far as the whole fighting Cinder in Volume 5 thing. So something that they talked about in the director's commentary is that what this was supposed to be was Cinder torturing Ruby through Jean, which I'm not sure is the best idea. Like, I get what I kind of understand that it was a way to, because let's keep in mind
How are they supposed to know that? Is my problem with that idea.
So that's that there's no way of us being able to tell that that's what's going on, and like and so it's one of those things where, and again, it's one of those things that they could have done really well if they'd had like maybe Watt pull Cinder aside and say, you are not allowed to fight the Silver-Eyed Girl because I don't trust you to not try and kill her, and basically tells everyone, keep her away from her. And Cinder gets really angry. He's all like, you're a creative girl. Find a way to find another way to torture her. And then Cinder goes and starts fighting Jean and keeps throwing Ruby all these looks like, ha 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 ha, ha, I'm killing your friend. And like maybe have like Emerald, keeping Ruby away, but also forcing Ruby to watch. And you can also take this as an opportunity to show that Jean's a better fighter now by having Cinder basically toy with him and then have him get the upper hand. Because of that, force her to take him seriously. So they could have done that, but like you could have done that, and so, but yeah, because let's keep in mind that I don't think a vocal minority that wanted to see Jean and Cinder fight. Like it was something that had to happen. She killed Pyrrha and stuff like that. They had to have some sort of confrontation. The problem is the fight sucked, and it completely ignored the fact that Cinder had a beef with Ruby. And so, yes. But yeah, and so they did, and it was just very poorly executed. Cinder never talks to or even looks at Ruby throughout the entire thing, and all we see is her fighting Jean and just completely forgetting about Ruby. So,
and something to agree with you actually as well, Robert, is I agree. I think it was specifically high-powered, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that were like totally for Jean being angsty and angry about Pyrrha.
Yeah.
And I'm still I still don't mind that personally, although I'm not going to say that me is completely wrong for thinking that, but I was totally fine with that at the time. It really only became a problem when it pushed Ruby further away, and I agree that like him having the fight with Cinder is fine if it didn't happen the way it did, and then Cinder got put on ice by Raven, and then she just completely ignored Ruby.
If so Cinder
there's some ideas behind that where Jean doesn't completely ruin everything, but the way they executed it, Jean kind of ruined some stuff.
And that's like Jean's entire thing, is that nowhere is that they have just been horrible with their, like, kind of like you talk about media, is that their their execution and their like the ideas behind Jean are good. The problem is the execution and the consistency just aren't there. And so
and moving on to the next one, an honest look at Pyrrha, my most positive honest look, I think.
And after Volume 5, that's
well, she's the only one that has no like relevance in Volume 5, or has the least amount of relevance in Volume 5.
It's very appropriate that, of course, the most positive honest look you've ever done is the one that had a character that did not show up at all in Volume 5.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, your most negative honest look also included characters that didn't show up in Volume 5, but
yeah. Here's the thing, like, it ended up being more positive than I originally thought it would. I said in my honest
Yeah.
like a Jean that like usually I have a really good idea of where the script is going before I start writing it. Jean was the exception. Jean was like,
Yeah.
I just need to write what I think about Jean and then come to a conclusion at the end. Whereas
Yeah.
Pyrrha, I knew it would be more positive, but I thought I would end up touching on a lot more of the negative aspects, but then I found myself actually liking those character flaws.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like that Pyrrha was kind of a doormat character with no actual will of her own.
Yeah. Like I said earlier,
She served her
I think
purpose.
they,
She's
like I said earlier, I think doubled down doubled down um on the whole OP kind of Mary Sue thing with her, because just to shut up all the people saying, "Oh, why would she go after Cinder? She had no chance of winning." Blah blah blah. It's all like I think if they had doubled down on her being OP and stuff like that, it would have been a lot. It would have been a lot better. And I do also think they should have done more to establish her relationship with Ruby, which you talk about in a later video. So, but yeah, like Cinder,
think-
yeah, but yeah, Pyrrha served.
think I do. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not the best person to. I don't know the Mary Sue definition as well as some people. I do kind of think Pyrrha is a bit of a Mary Sue, but I think it's fine, and I think she served her purpose anyway, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that was a very. I think it was cool. I actually think it was one of the more clever things.
It was one of those
to
things
make her a
that
Mary Sue and
it
then
was
kill
by
her.
design, and it worked. It just could have worked a lot better.
I think
Yeah,
it's, what I think is really,
that is actually
what
a
I-
good kind of subversive.
What I think is really funny is, I don't know if you guys remember this, because I remember this very clearly, because I didn't become a huge fan of RWBY. I didn't become a fan at all, really. I was a casual fan before, but I became a true fan of RWBY after Volume 3 ended. And what I did was I watched all of Volume 1, all of Volume 2, and all of Volume 3, because I didn't watch Volume 3 when it came out. I watched it the night it finished. Right? And then I joined all the like discussion groups and Facebook groups and all that stuff, right? And that's how I ended up meeting you guys.
Gotcha.
And the thing is,
That actually kind of brings me to a question that was in the YouTube comments
well, hold on, let me
section.
finish. So the thing is that I don't know if you guys remember this, but after Volume 3, do you remember all the backlash people had about Pyrrha's death?
Yeah, I remember getting freaking flamed
and do you remember how
on
wrong
fan
everybody was
fiction.
about, because they kept saying how Pyrrha's death didn't make sense. Isn't it great to think about how wrong those people
I
were
got
about that?
flamed on fan fiction pretty early on in when I was writing RWBY and Beyond about people like, please bring Pyrrha back, and I basically shot them down, and then kind of out of spite I created like a zombie Pyrrha for a chapter that then Jean was forced to kill.
And it was right after.
Yeah, and it was like it was only a couple chapters after he had started dating Ruby.
By the way, that reminds me, Robert, when are you gonna do actually videoize the a long conversation that doesn't need to happen?
I'm having a hard time. I feel like I need to make an 5 as a thing. Basically, maybe try to contrast the two, because that was the thing that I want to do.
I still think you just make it, because that's still one of the best things I've read, dude.
Making all of my.
So good. It was so good.
So question in the YouTube comment section was from Kytherus37 asked, how did you get into RWBY? Dude, you just answered the question. I've told the story before a couple times where I actually was just on YouTube with my roommate, and we ended up just randomly watching Rage Quit Surgeon Simulator, and then our dorm mate, who was in the room like who was in the dorm like next to ours, or maybe 2 doors down from ours, came in and it was like,
3 doors down.
no, I don't think it was that far away. I also don't think he was I also don't think he was a subpar early 2000s grunge rock band. But he ended up coming into our room and being like, "Is that Gavin and Michael?" And like, and he looks at the video like, "Yeah, that's Rich Quinn." And then we start talking about like who they are, because I don't know. And he named us Red versus Blue, and I'm like, Red versus Blue, that sounds familiar. Like, oh yeah, I remember watching that like 10 years ago. He's like, oh yeah, it's still going on. Season 10 just ended a few months ago. Like, they made a second season. Like that's just how out of the loop I was with
Yes,
Red
yes, they
versus Blue.
did.
That's
Um,
funny.
and then he's like, yeah, they even have a new show out called RWBY. There's only like 3 episodes so far, but I'm liking it pretty well. And so I start watching Red versus Blue first, and I catch up with that over the course of like a week. And then I get into watching RWBY right after that, right after I catch up. And it's uh I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. This is kind of cool, I guess. I mean, it's really cool that like this indie studio is doing something on this level. Like I could really appreciate like the ambition that they have with it. Um and then I didn't really become a fan until halfway through volume 2 with the episode Burning the Candle. That was when I became like borderline obsessed with RWBY and obsessed with the lore and obsessed with RWBY's characterization. That's when RWBY became my favorite character, one of my favorite characters of all time for a minute. Um
Well,
and
longer than a minute. It's really
that's
volume
when I
5 that. It's
well
really
no
volume.
even like later on volume 3 and 4 she became like she was still like my favorite character in Ruby. She just like for a second there she was like up there with
I
Captain
gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
America and Jefferson Smith as one of my favorite characters in any medium for a solid minute there.
Gotcha.
And that's also when I started like doing the planning stuff for RWBY Beyond. That's when I got like the fan fiction ideas, and that's when I started being like, hey, I have like actual like good head canons for this. I'm gonna actually like use this to practice writing and put myself out there, and kind of like see if I could build an audience, build a viewership, before I go on to other projects and more original works. And I am still stuck in RWBY Beyond. This is the final the thing I'm working on. The RWBY on iteration I'm working on now is going to be the last RWBY on story. It's over after this. I'm done with RWBY, fanfiction wise after this. I might come back and do like more just at casually type stuff,
Yes, yes,
but
yes, 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 yes.
RWBY on will be done. I will not do any more RWBY on after
More
RWBY
just
on
that
Home is over,
casual.
which I am almost halfway done with RWBY on Home. Uh,
Nice.
That's the thing. Like it's a long story, and it takes so long to write those chapters compared to chapters in my other works. But real quick,
Okay.
Nut Jobification donated $20. Thank you for your generosity, man. He said in
Nice.
Volume 4, I thought they were setting up Jean to become an anti-hero fighting to avenge Pyrrha, using her style in some way. At least that's how it came off with his interactions with Crow. Thoughts?
Okay.
Aside from the style thing, I
I
don't
agree.
think he would have ever adopted her style. But
I
I
would have
do
been
agree
okay
that
with him
like they were
kind of going.
kind of
I don't-
going in that direction.
I don't think he was capable of really emulating her style. I don't think that was ever an intention because he's not just not. I really just think he would be capable of emulating her style. She's much better than him. I think that's kind of part of the point of their relationship was that he's not on her level, like in terms of fighting. But as I mentioned earlier in this very podcast, that one of the things I did kind of disagree with media on in the Honestly John video is that I was a big, and I think High Powered was the same way. That High Powered and I were kind of on the hype train of, yeah, let's have Jean be angry at Ozpin and Crow. Like I like this angry Jean. At that time, I like that idea. So I agree with Mr. Nutjob that seemed like that was possible. I think we even debated about whether or not he would go full anti-hero or not, and if we thought that would be a good idea or not. I don't know if I would have liked him going full anti-hero, but being kind of like
The voice of dissent.
getting toward the edge of like almost becoming an anti-hero, and then his friends kind of pull him back from the brink would have been really interesting and a great idea.
Or possibly.
It could have worked. The reason I don't think it would have been okay with him going full anti-hero is because he's not a big enough threat for it to matter if he went full anti-hero. Because if it got to the point where he went full anti-hero, he would have died in the process. So that's why I feel like it would have been better if him getting close to that point and then his friend saving him from that, thus also saving him from getting himself killed, would have been more interesting.
Well, and that's one of the things that really also pissed me off about the that he should have been stronger than Yang and Blake and Weiss by like the end, like by the time Volume 5 rolled around. All right, he spent like all that time getting real world experience. Like Team Ranger should have been maybe not like full on huntsman by the end of Volume 4, but they should have been like I don't know, at least at the level of like Beacon near graduate. I don't know. That's just what I think. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
So, like,
I had
Josh-
another question pulled up here. This isn't really a question because he gives his own answer, but it's Kaiser Shonen on in the comment section asked, why is any of this happening? Do you want the headcanon answer, the short answer, or the obvious answer? Short answer because we need a show. Real answer because lazy writing. Headcanon answer because some leftist dickholes held Miles and Carrie at gunpoint and told them that expanding upon the issue they present would be problematic.
What does he mean by like what happened to
That was on that
White
was in the
Fang?
comment section of the White Fang video.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, kind of. Except for I don't think any.
Yeah. Someone else replied like, "Have you seen Miles' Twitter feed? I don't think he needs I don't think he needs like a gun to his head to say stuff like that."
Yeah.
So after that, another question Devin Holmes asked Great Vid Media, is the most RWBY Wiki's most popular character Raven next? She is not next. I will probably get to her and Crow in a video eventually.
I'll get to it eventually. God,
What
I
is
miss
that from? I've quoted that so many
That's
times
from the
I don't
Amanda
even know what it's
Show.
from.
That's from so it's a segment called The Procrastinator, where Amanda Bynes plays a character called a superhero called the
Oh, God.
Procrastinator. And people always ask her to help them with stuff, and she says, "I'll get to it eventually."
God, I forgot
Amanda
about
Bynes
that.
had a show.
Yeah, Amanda Bynes had a show for a long time. I remember watching it as a kid.
Show.
Apparently,
It's like all that. Like I remember because
And a bag of
like millennial. Like, are we all like almost the same age?
Hold on,
I'm 26.
I think we cut
I'm
out again.
26. Oh, did we?
Okay, I think we're back.
But yes, we're all around the world.
Says we're live. Media, you're like 20. You're 25 or 26, right?
I turned 25 in like a few weeks. I'm going to have to do a stream on my birthday since I'm not going to go to RTX for
overall, we're all really close in age.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how I have an show, but eh.
So the next honest look was honest look at Ren and Nora, which ended up a little more positive than I thought it would. I thought I would really double down on how Volume 5 ruined them, but that ended up being a smaller part of the video.
Then, and then they got ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, what we've been saying. Yeah, they were good until Volume 5 ruined them.
Yeah. That was one I released on Monty's birthday. Because
Okay.
it just happened to line up that it was gonna come out close to his birthday anyway, and so I purposely procrastinated on it so that it would be done on done and uploaded on his birthday, because I mean it worked. That stuff like that worked out so well the last time I did something like that. When I uploaded the review for Volume 4, Episode 11 on the anniversary of his death, leading to the downfall and absolute implosion of Team Theory, which could be the subject of its own freaking long-winded video if I wanted it to.
Can we please Can we please do a podcast on that one day?
Well, we
Just
said
just
that,
the rise and fall of Team Theory. I think we've
I'm
alluded that we might do that in the past.
we've alluded to it, and I have to be a part of that, please.
Yeah. Because
I
you
mean,
were a big
was it-
part.
was it-
We would
I was
also
a
have
big
to have
part
high.
of it.
We would also have to
It
have
was
high
it was
powered for it because he was a major.
you,
He was a bigger part of
myself-
that even for me. Even
Yes,
than
you,
me,
us,
he was a bigger part of
you.
that.
High
Even than
powered
me.
was the biggest part. You were the second biggest part. I was probably the third biggest
I
part.
was the instigator. I was the
Yeah.
one that got the ball
You were
rolling
the
on that.
instigator, but I still had to say the biggest reason with what happened. You guys might be
Yeah.
tied, but I was definitely the one right below you guys because I
Well,
was
you're the one who tried making the
horribly
you were the
defending
one
you
who made
guys.
like the Facebook post that got taken down and got you kicked, and someone else also got kicked just for liking it.
Yes, and that was
Yeah.
like
And that's
I don't know-
where a
I don't
lot
know
of people
guys
drew
if
the
they-
line and started like really
Yeah,
booing
exactly.
the
That's
admins
why
and stuff.
that's why I'm the third person, the third
Yeah.
most important person,
And
the
then
person who got kicked.
Robert would be right underneath you because he's the one who
Yeah.
was actually like clever
I
and
was the
smart
short
about
of
it.
the kid.
Yeah.
You're the one who was
Yeah.
clever and smart about it and like hid the oh by the way this happened earlier today and the admins are absolutely wrong for doing it in the
I
middle
did it.
of like a big wall of text with a bunch of other points to it so that the
Yeah.
admins didn't notice it until it had already gotten a bunch of comments.
Yeah, basically, I just.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
cut
well,
out.
we definitely need to
Yeah.
do like a video talking about that. We should probably do that like on the anniversary of its demise,
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd be so down.
which would be in February.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
yeah,
basically, long story. We were all part of theory, then we were not, and we all realized that we were all really smart and had really good creative minds and started up RWBY and Beyond.
I mean, since then, like the Facebooks have kind of gone down in general. It's not just because of Team Theory, obviously, because RWBY Republic was bigger than Team Theory by a long shot anyway.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
kind of all sort of, and I think part of it is Volume 5 being so garbage.
Yeah.
purely Bloom in the comment section asked, "Can I love you anymore?"
You can always love.
Yeah, you can always love me more,
Yeah.
and if you're cute, maybe I'll love you back. That's a terrible thing to say.
The level of media's recording skills right now on full display.
I am going to get some comments if people will actually watch this and care
Stream flirting! Stream flirting!
with a random commenter.
In fairness, media, if I wasn't engaged, I would probably be just as bad. I would do the same thing. I'd be just as bad. But I am, so I'm not. I'll just make fun of what I would be.
Yeah.
All right, so Devin Holmes asked in the comment section, here's my 2000 sub video question, guys. Out of all the female characters in RWBY, which one, in your opinion, looks good, but their personality and or bad writing ruins them as waifus?
Blake.
Cinder.
I would go with
Raven.
Cinder.
I would go with
Cinder.
Blake, quite simply because she has a lot of the physical characteristics of my fiance. She's
Yeah.
she's taller than average, but not super tall, which fits my fiance's description. She's got very light skin and super dark hair.
Kirishima just posted in the chat like, "Is media flirting? I didn't know you could do that." Yeah, you did.
Oh,
Yeah, you
wow,
did.
That's a worse burn. That's a worse burn than me.
That's yeah. She knows better.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Kitty, remember when we all thought it was hilarious how much media hated Blake, and we got Kitty to draw a.
Oh my
that
goodness.
was amazing. That was so good.
Don't remind me. She drew me with like my facial hair too. I don't actually like the way she drew me. I prefer the one that everyone is looking at now, with the chibi me that she drew.
Also, let's also just give Kitty a big shout out for our avatar she's done and how amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
how amazing they are. Actually, by the way, Kitty, do you have a copy of mine you can give me so I can use it as my Discord thing?
I have copies of I have a copy of it, and I also have the background list, and I also have one of the like when she wasn't quite done with it, because I requested for the podcast that we did with Fat Man Falling, and then I ended up having to postpone uploading that to where I ended up just having the background list version anyway. Yeah, I could post those to Discord
Yeah,
after
let me,
we're
because
done.
I really want to use mine as my Discord
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
And
I
yeah,
did
no,
I did
Blake,
for a while, and then I switched to something, and now I'm Skull Kid on the Discord.
as much as I love Hakase, shout outs to Kyoto Animation and Nichijou and Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. But I do want to have this because I really she knocks it out of the park with all of them. I think I like mine. I think High Powers is still the coolest though. The fucking flail on the pistol, you can't really beat that.
We
Yeah,
talked about
I've
the
gotten a lot of comments on this
or
most recent
what was it,
video.
like the problem Juniper or something like that? What was it?
Oh, the missing piece in Juniper's arc.
Like,
It was
I remember I was waiting for that.
the second to most
Where we
recent
talked
video
about,
I've made,
sorry, can you hear me okay?
and it's yeah. Oh, you cut out.
Yeah,
Everything just cut out for a second.
Okay.
Trying to get YouTube back. I'm gonna try refreshing it. Oh nope, never mind. I don't need to refresh it.
The wonders of interwebs.
Yeah, the internet, it's like literally where my computer is at, which is the only place where I can actually put it in this house, has the worst Wi-Fi reception in the entire house. It's just bad luck for me. Because it always works fine on my phone and on my iPad anywhere else in the house except right where I'm at. It'll cut out. Um, but anyway, that's just because the Wi-Fi here isn't quite as good as it was in the last place I was at, and in the last two places I've lived, I was like right next to the Wi-Fi router, so it's like I never had dead signal. Whereas um, here it's like it's the Wi-Fi router is actually like upstairs above me and halfway across the house. Um, yeah, so that's just my luck. Um, anyway, I've gotten a lot of the
Are we back?
missing piece. Yeah, we're back. The missing piece of
Okay.
Juniper's arc.
Yeah.
This was something that was actually I don't think I ever actually had a script for it. Like I didn't do any copy paste, but I think I might have had a script for it at one point where it was like it was kind of like a precursor to what an honest look ended up being, where I wanted to do character breakdowns. I want to do like character breakdowns and talk about like the various dynamics, and so that ended up becoming a lot of what honest look was. And one of the first ones I wrote, and I think I posted it on to Facebook. This was back when Team Theory was still a thing. Talking about how I wish that Pura and Ruby had more screen time together to really
Yeah.
make that just hit
Yeah,
home
that
for
was a
Ruby.
great point. That was a great point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think yeah, I don't know. Something I was thinking about, that I've been thinking about recently is that, like, I don't know. I think they should have, like, I don't know. But yeah, I think they should have done. And I think Pura and Penny have some interactions, actually. So, like, I don't know. Just build that to make it all the way accidentally killed her. It's like, oh my gosh, I just killed someone I know. And that's, oh my gosh, I killed this girl who was kind of Ruby's friend.
Yeah, so then after that I did the most recent video, which was my most politically charged video I've made. And I think it's my best video. I think an honest look at the White Fang is the best video I've made. I think it has the best audio quality. I think it has a lot of the best editing that I put in it. I think it has a lot of the best points, a lot of the best jokes. It was just really politically charged because
It's really politically charged, but you're actually fairly balanced, to be honest, because you gave sympathy to Black Lives Matter and Malcolm X. And if you were really just being like going full right-wing retard, you wouldn't have done that. So yes, it's politically charged, but I think you're selling yourself a little short for that. You were actually being, in my opinion, fairly objective as somebody who's probably a little bit more in the middle than you are politically. And I actually saw it as pretty even-handed. I think history will vindicate you as being very even-handed in that video. Probably not right now, but I think history will vindicate you as being fairly even-handed. And it actually doesn't really matter because, funnily enough, anime fans are a lot more conservative than I expected in a lot of ways when I first joined this group. There's a lot more really conservative anime fans than I would have thought.
It's because Japan is a very conservative country.
Yes, that is
They
true.
are very I was talking about My Hero Academia earlier today with Secure, who does not like My Hero Academia. And we got into an argument. We got into an argument over Deku and over the world building and All Might's role in it. Because he does not like any of that. But like My Hero Academia is a good example of like Japan. That is how Japan is. They are actually very super objectivist in nature. They are very, no, you have to be good at something. You have to go into school for that. You have to do well in that school. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. And those are very conservative values that get into a lot of anime like My Hero Academia and Naruto and Dragon Ball and One Piece and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Neon Genesis Evangelion and Full Metal Alchemist and all these other like really popular anime that people like base their lives around and base their worldviews on, and it's actually really conservative values.
That is a really good point, actually. I didn't even think about that because I haven't watched a lot of those specific types of anime. Most of the anime I watch are like the very for the most part are the fish out of water / slice of lifey kind of anime.
Like Devil's Part-Timer, which is amazing, and I'm sad that it only had one season.
I know, Devil's a Part-Timer. Last year when I did go to Anime Expo, and 2 years ago I went to Anime Expo with my sister, and she dressed up as God, why am I forgetting her name? I have a fucking statue of her.
Chio.
Just Chiho. She did a Chiho cosplay, and
Did
not
she
that
stop
many
her
people.
bra?
No, and
I had to ask. Sorry.
this is gonna sound really wrong, but she didn't need to.
Okay.
So she did a Chiho cosplay, and so not that many people recognized her, but it's so funny because everybody that did recognize her went apeshit. It's one of those things, like everybody that recognized her like went crazy and was like, "Season 2! Like, we need a season 2. Where is season 2?"
I think
And
I
actually,
Freaking Konosuba getting a movie now, and I'm like,
yeah.
there were rumors coming around that Konosuba was getting a season 3, and I'm just like, don't do this to me, man. Don't be getting my hopes up like this, man. And then there was a movie like, I told you guys, don't get my hopes up for season 3. I want a deadline before I can get hyped because I was I was that heartbroken by Konosuba getting canceled.
So like, and then she actually did a cosplay the next year, this year. No, it was last year. Sorry, last year her cosplay was from Yuri on Ice, and she did a relatively obscure reference in Yuri on Ice. So apparently in Yuri on Ice, there's a thing where because she likes to do kind of obscure cosplays for the most part. So she did Yuri on Ice, and it was because I guess it's a joke where they like eat tonkatsu bowls or something like that. So she went as a tonkatsu bowl, and she met the creator of Yuri on Ice and like the guy who like produced the anime, and they asked to take a picture with her. So again, same thing. Most people didn't get it, but the people that mattered got it, and the people that got it really got it.
Yeah.
So she's good. There's like the random. I like, and I'm kind of the same way. Like I don't really go for the super like mainstream, and I'm not trying to be an anime hipster. It's just that I think a lot of the mainstream anime are kind of crap. Like I tried to watch Fairy Tail. I watched like 3 episodes of Fairy Tail.
Fairy Tail's garbage.
And fucking hated it. It was so bad from the very beginning. And
You're better off watching Bleach. And Bleach is also garbage, but Bleach is still better than Fairy Tail.
And I never liked Dragon Ball Z. I am an original Dragon Ball Z hater. I've always disliked Dragon Ball Z. I am, with all the videos you've been making, media, I'm thinking about giving Naruto a chance.
That's a commitment, and that's you gotta know what you're getting yourself into, because there's a lot of garbage in Naruto as well. But the highs when Kishimoto is on, he is virtually without peer. But when he's not on, he is kind of insufferable.
The highs are high, the lows are low.
Yeah.
I need to finish Full Metal Alchemist first.
You do. That is a must see.
That's an objectively better show from what I've been.
Yeah, it is. And from and again, like, if you don't want to make the time commitment with Naruto, then just play the games, and you get basically the entire story, and also you get to play a pretty solid fighting game as well. And the Naruto games also get like really cinematic. Like they do a really good job recreating a lot of the like more set piecey moments in the series. Can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I'm still hearing you. Sorry about that.
Is there anything left?
Anything left to talk about?
I mean, not without getting like personal, like why I feel the way I do about Black Lives Matter and the Ferguson riots, namely, and that I freaking lived it.
Maybe let's not do that right now.
Let's just say I live in the St. Louis area, and in 2014 I lived like in the Ferguson, Florissant area when all that stuff was going down. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up. Let's make sure we get like
Kitty Kirishima understood my reference that I was talking about with my sister's cosplay.
Of
pork
course
cutlet
she did.
bowl. Of course she did. Thank you, Kitty. Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, pork cutlet thing. But yeah, she took a picture with I was just really happy for her. She took a picture with like the creator of her favorite fucking anime. It's like, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could meet like the people at like Kyoto Animation and like take a picture with the people that did
someone
Michijo.
did ask in the comment section, and because it is a honest question, I do want to address it. He asked me if I'm a Trump supporter. I basically said, and I've said this on the podcast before, that like I didn't vote I voted for the other guy. I voted for Gary Johnson for presidency. I could not in good conscience vote for a question mark like Trump or an assured negative like Hillary Clinton. But so far I've been okay with I've been okay with a lot of what he's done. Unless he completely craps the bed and like starts a war with China or something, he's got my vote for 2020. But that's only if he doesn't like completely screw up between now and then.
Yeah,
like
which we all know is definitely a
I got him on a leash, which I got him on a pretty tight leash as far as like my opinions of him go.
Yeah, I think I don't know, can't speak for everybody, but I mean, first, it's really interesting that all of us ended up, and we didn't really when we all became like the RWBY podcast people, that all of us, including High Powered, are relatively conservative, and I'm actually probably I don't know if I'm the least conservative. I probably am. I've gotten more conservative
Probably.
since you guys. That's for damn sure. I was probably a slightly left-leaning centrist at the time, and now I'm definitely a right-leaning centrist right now.
Yeah.
But
I have voted for both parties. I'm not like a staunch
yeah, exactly.
conservative.
I don't think
Like
I think what people
like
need to understand is that I don't
our
think
governor, our most recent, not our current governor, but our governor before that, Eric Greitens, who we elected in 2016. I called it. He was a scumbag, and I called it. And I warned people like, if you want to vote Republican, but do not vote for Eric Greitens. I did not support him in the primary.
Yeah.
He was not even in my top 5 for the Republican primary for Missouri's governorship in 2016. I voted for the Democrat guy over him, and I got proven right because he got freaking Illinois. He got Rod Blagojevich.
I think
He's like getting threatened with actual prison time because of the stuff he pulled. Um,
no.
and our governor,
I voted for more left-wing people in my lifetime than I voted for right-wing people.
yeah, and our governor before that, I voted for him in 2000. I voted for him for re-election in 2012. I think Jay Nixon, our previous governor who is governor from 2008 to 2012. Um, I think 2008 through 2016, because he got 2 terms. I think he was very underrated. I think he did the right thing with the Ferguson riots, and I think he could have made a really good stab at the presidency in 2016 had it not been for the Ferguson riots. And I would still vote for him. Like if he were to run against Trump, I would have a really hard time not voting for him. Like that would get me to vote against Trump if Trump still like if the next 2 or so years go smoothly for Trump. I would still vote for Jay Nixon over him because I think Jay Nixon is a very fine man and a very fine politician, and he's a Democrat. Like that's the thing. Like he was actually very critical of how Obama handled a lot of things. He was very critical on the Ferguson riots. He's the one who sent in the National Guard and then got raked over the coals for it by the left. To the point where like a lot of Democrats ended up disassociating with him because he called in the National Guard on the protesters.
Yeah, I think most of us are I can't speak for High Powered because he's not here, but I believe
He's super conservative. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, he's more conservative than the rest of us. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I would describe myself as more libertarian than anything else. I don't know. What about you, Robert?
I didn't vote, but I have a lot of faith in him being able to. I don't know. I have a lot more faith in him being able to get a second term than I do in Miles and Kerry being able to make it to Volume 6.
Well, no, that's because even if Trump messes up, he still has a good chance of getting a second term because the Democrats don't have a platform right now. They're just
they don't
running
have a
on
platform.
hate Trump. That's all they're saying now. Like
Yeah.
the writing was
They don't
kind of
have
on the
a
wall with
platform,
2008.
and they're losing people constantly.
The writing was kind of on the wall after 2008 when they finally got
the writing is on the wall on the libertarian.
yeah.
Become libertarian, but a libertarian.
Yeah, that's High Power chiming in.
I would describe myself personally as libertarian. In the 2016 election, I voted for Nora Valkyrie. I'm not exact.
Yes.
I have
Yes, you've told that story before.
That I'm not allowed to publish it in California as you do so. But I did. I am allowed to say that I voted for Nora Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I voted for Nora Valkyrie in the 2016 election because I could not choose between a piece of shit and a turd sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I have endorsed. I have on Twitter endorsed Austin Peterson for the Senate race. For the Republican primaries because Josh Hawley has a lot of the same problems Eric Greitens does, with the added baggage of he's a Washington insider, GOP hack, neocon. He's a rhino, Republican in name only, and he's the one who gets like all the GOP backing and actually just got endorsed by Trump, which is one of the dumbest. Like as a Missourian. That is one of the dumbest moves Trump has made as president, is endorsing a hack like Josh Hawley. Austin Peterson all the way. But that's my political background.
If anything, we are further proof that the far left is going way too far because people like us that could technically vote either way are going further right because of just how authoritarian the far
Hateful.
left is and hateful the far left is
Nut
becoming right now.
Jobification donated another $5. Man, you're making my day.
The real hero right here.
It said, just to let you know, I am a hard liberal, but I friggin' love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate
And we love
that.
you. And we love you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I can speak
I
for
blew someone in the comments' minds when I said that I have a liberal friend who I disagree with, but we still get along. And then they tried being like,
Yeah.
oh, but you just freaking backtalk them and trash talk some of their beliefs. That says so much about your friendship. Like, dude, you have no right to say who I am friends with and how our relationships are. My friend is
Yeah.
like someone who I talk to on Facebook constantly. Well, not constantly, but
Yeah.
more consistently than most other people on Facebook that I talk to.
Yeah, keep in mind,
Politics are a much smaller part of like who we are and our lives than I think a lot of us give us credit. Okay, we're all people, and we're allowed to disagree. That's one of the best things
It's
about.
like I'm going to school to be a
being a
teacher.
person.
I am constantly surrounded by the liberal
Oh, yeah.
fart cloud.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I am. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think it's further proof that like the people that say that moderates are the problem are the people that are on the extreme right and the extreme left who are literally the problems. And I'm gonna
our Constitution was made to combat tyranny and anarchy in one foul swoop.
Yeah.
Exactly. If more people, exactly, if more people on both sides would try to compromise more, then this government could actually work.
Or just have conversations. They don't even have to compromise. They can agree to disagree so long as the discussion is being had. That's why the only thing the only thing I really like about Steven Crowder is his change my mind segment, where he actually like
change my mind segment is definitely the best part of his. It's definitely the best part of his channel. I think that the biggest problem right now is people not talking and people saying like I won't be friends with somebody who has a different political view than me. Because keep in mind, when I started hanging out with you guys were way more conservative than I was. I was definitely further left.
I was when we started this whole endeavor, I was at like my most red pilled.
So like for me, and like I didn't give a half of a flying fuck about that. And like I have friends that are like on the left that say, like if I found out somebody I don't want to find out what one of my friends supported Trump. It's like, why do you care about that?
I think we're boring the chat. They're talking about like free ponies and stuff.
Sorry,
everybody.
Sorry.
We're all friends here too, so like sometimes we just like to talk to each other.
Also, I am very open about my political opinions.
I am too.
But I think this is where we can wrap it up. We've been going for almost 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Our total view time in hours is 186 hours of people watching us on this stream. And peak concurrent, 71 people were watching this at one point. That is pretty close to the record. It's not quite the record.
Not bad. That's not bad.
Our record was the Volume 5 finale podcast where we had like 108 people on at one time, and a lot of that was because Fat Man Falling decided to tweet us out and get a lot of his people, and I gained a lot of subscribers that day because he found the stream and posted in it and was in the chat and stuff. But
Fat Man. I had fun talking with him, actually. I gotta admit.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun having.
So wrapping up, and I'm gonna just give a little preview on things that are happening in the future. I already mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but my next video will be about the Spider-Man movies, and then I'm talking about JoJo.
Nice.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the next video I'm doing after the Spider-Man video. I've been putting off JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for so long.
I forget what the video was, but you said, and yes, that was a JoJo reference, and that I've never seen a single episode of JoJo, but I totally understood that reference, and that was hilarious.
Other things in the pipeline, I have a movie review for a movie called Phoebe in Wonderland that was supposed to be my 1,000 subscriber special, but I was on hiatus when I hit 1,000
Lol.
subscribers, and I had to do the villains and the June and so on and so forth, and now we're here.
Hang out.
And then
You cut out there, media. You
oh
still there?
sorry, yeah, I was just saying
Yeah,
that
you cut out.
Sorry. You still there?
I can hear you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, so Jojo,
that's
I
what
also
we're
have a
hearing,
movie
okay.
review in the works
I
for a
can't
movie.
now. I think he cut out again.
Oh shoot.
The survivor says Spider Pig does whatever a spider.
All right, trying to disconnect and reconnect because the stream says it's bad. I think this is a sign that we need to wrap up. Da 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 da.
There was 2 games today for the beginning
Oh,
of the playoffs.
now I'm back, but the stream is dead.
Do we just want to call it now?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter, please. I would also plug the Facebook, but I've basically swapped to Twitter. I do most of my posting on Twitter now.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't. At this point.
So yeah, follow me on Twitter, like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, and also
I'll try to get more videos
again,
out
like,
when my computer's fixed.
yeah, and everything else I've already played, like Patreon.
And also
Support that if you
also
can.
my fan fiction. Looks like we lost you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, I have nothing to plug.
Yeah. All right, so
That's okay.
everyone have a good night.
Yeah, okay.